If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 201, Board Meeting, Bonus Chapter. With all the vampires in the werewolf base cleared by Irika's team, the surviving werewolves gathered together. The werewolves had reverted to their human forms, abandoning their giant wolf appearances. The leader of the werewolves, accompanied by the remaining members, arrived at the location where Irika and the others had gathered. As the leading werewolf entered, he quickly spotted Lucian lying on the ground. Rushing over, he shouted in pain, "Lucian!" Witnessing this, the other werewolves expressed deep sorrow. Lucian was their leader and had always protected them. Enraged, the werewolves spotted Selene crouched on the ground nearby and were about to vent their anger on her. Bang! However, Suzuki swiftly kicked the approaching werewolf, sending him flying. "This is my loot. You can't touch," Suzuki declared. Seeing this scene, the leader of the werewolf team shouted, "Quiet! Lord Suzuki, I apologize sincerely." They acted recklessly due to overwhelming grief. The werewolf leader quickly apologized. Suzuki accepted the apology and pointed to Michael and Selene, saying, "These two are our loot. Don't touch them." Hearing Sasuke's words, the werewolf team leader said, "Everyone, don't harm them. They are loot claimed by Lord Suzuki." Upon hearing that Suzuki and the others claimed the loot, the remaining werewolves suppressed their anger. Though savage, werewolves admired strength, and Irika and the others were perceived as invincible beings, especially since they had saved the werewolves during the assault. Michael had mostly recovered by now and walked over to protect Selene. Irika looked at the werewolves and, with a slight frown, asked, "Where is Reyes?" One werewolf choked up and said, "Lord Irika, Reyes died in battle." Hearing that their patron had fallen in battle, Irika furrowed his brows, a result that left everyone feeling helpless. "We were entrusted by Reyes to protect you for 3 days. There's still 1 day left, but this place is not safe. Do you have another base or any plans?" Irika inquired. The werewolf leader, Lade, responded, "Currently, there are only 15 of us left in the base. Our other comrades were killed. We have nowhere else to go." Lade paused for a moment and continued, "Lord Irika, if you don't mind, you can arrange for us, or if you are willing, you can shelter us." Hearing Lade's words, the remaining werewolves nodded and said, "Lord Irika, if you don't mind, you can take us in." Irika pondered for a moment and then spoke, "Do you have any gold coins from the Continental Hotel?" Several werewolves in the group mentioned the number of gold coins they possessed. "I have 2 coins. I have 1 coin. I have 3 coins. Lade added, "Lord Irika, I have 5 coins." Irika, after hearing the numbers, said, "Let me make arrangements for you. In the meantime, stay here." The werewolves nodded gratefully, and Irika proceeded to plan their next steps. Irika, pleased to see that half of the werewolves possessed gold coins from the Continental Hotel, nodded in satisfaction. "Gather 15 gold coins, and follow me to the Continental Hotel. Before leaving, take whatever valuables you can carry." After giving the order, Irika pointed to Michael and said, "Carry Selene on your back and follow us." Michael, having witnessed the magical and powerful abilities of Irika and the others, had abandoned any thoughts of escape long ago. He lifted Selene onto his back and joined the group. Selene, still immersed in the overwhelming memories from Victor, was unable to wake up. Fortunately, with her several centuries of life experience, the vast memories did not affect her, though digesting them proved challenging. With the remaining 15 werewolves gathering some essentials, they followed Irika and the others to the Continental Hotel in London to check in. As Irika led the werewolves away, within an hour, a heavily armed Special Forces unit arrived at the werewolf base. Carrying firearms, they collected the bodies of werewolves and vampires, then proceeded to clean up the battlefield. The packaged bodies were then transported out via an armed helicopter. Meanwhile, in the vampire castle, as the werewolf doctor's blood flowed into the coffin, Marcus, who had been in a deep slumber, slowly woke up. Simultaneously, he absorbed all the memories of the werewolf doctor. Without anyone activating the mechanisms underground, Marcus directly broke through the ground and flew out. With enormous, hairless wings, Marcus revealed the difference between him and Victor. "This foul creature's blood awakened me," Marcus muttered. Checking the time, he found it was nearly dawn and summoned the remaining vampires in the castle. He inquired about the changes after Victor's departure but remained unaware of the events at the werewolf base. Soon, it was daytime. In the Charles agency in New York, Charles, awakened by a knock on his door, stretched lazily before opening it. Standing there was Ginny, holding a custom-made suit. "Boss, there's a Stark Industrial shareholders meeting this morning, and you need to attend. I've prepared this suit for you," Ginny said. Still yawning, Charles accepted the suit and replied, "Thanks, Ginny. Ask the chef to prepare me breakfast. I'll come down after freshening up." Glancing at her watch, Ginny added, "The meeting starts in 2 hours." After reminding Charles about the time, Ginny turned and went downstairs, instructing the chef to prepare breakfast for Charles. After closing the door, Charles took a quick shower, performed a simple wash-up, and then changed into the suit prepared by Ginny. Putting on his wristwatch, he picked up his charging phone. As soon as the phone powered up, Charles received a call reminder and a MMS from Irika. Opening the MMS, Charles saw a photo of a rhombus-shaped red crystal. He then read the accompanying text, learning that Irika had found a suspicious item on a vampire and handed it over to Parker. As for the werewolves seeking refuge, the situation with Selene and Michael, and all other specific details, were recorded in a report attached to the email sent to Charles's inbox. Chapter 202, Value. After reading the message sent by Irika, Charles nodded in satisfaction. Sending 4 people on the mission turned out to be a big profit, and even the seemingly hopeless blood cores were found. To determine the value of the blood cores, Charles hesitated for no moment. He directly used the summoning technique in his bedroom. Bang! After a burst of smoke, Parker was summoned. "Lord Charles, there is a package for you." Charles took the package from Parker and said, "Thank you, Parker. There is nothing else here. You can go back now." "Goodbye, Lord Charles." After saying goodbye, Parker returned to the summoning world. Charles opened the package and looked at the blood cores inside, taking one out casually. Ding! Discovered rechargeable item. Do you want to recharge? Recharge. Recharge successful, obtain 60 gold coins. Ding! Obtained first recharge double reward, 60 gold coins. Hearing that he had obtained 60 gold coins, Charles immediately understood that the approximate value of one blood core was 60 gold coins. He poured out all the blood cores from the package, counted them, and found that there were a total of 131. Among them, 2 blood cores were significantly larger, while the others were of similar size. Charles did a quick calculation. 1 energy block was equivalent to 3 blood cores. He directly took out 28 blood cores of the same size and initiated another recharge. Ding! Recharge successful, obtained 1,680 gold coins. Ding! Obtain recharge double reward, 1,680 gold coins. 2 consecutive recharges caused Charles's gold coin count to skyrocket to 28,884. With 101 blood cores remaining on the table after excluding the 2 larger ones, without any hesitation, Charles initiated a recharge for all the remaining 101 blood cores. Ding! Recharge successful, obtained 6,060 gold coins. After recharging the remaining blood cores, Charles looked at the 2 larger ones on the table and initiated separate recharges. Ding! Recharge successful, obtained 180 gold coins. Ding! Recharge successful, obtained 250 gold coins and recharge reward of 250 gold coins. As expected, the larger the blood core, the more gold coins obtained through recharge. The blood cores brought by Irika and others increased Charles's gold coins by 10,220, a result that pleased him greatly. Thinking that he hadn't done the daily check-in today, Charles immediately proceeded with the check-in. Ding! Check-in successful, obtained 30,000 copper coins. Entering the ninja store, Charles glanced at the ninja fragments that had refreshed today. Naruto Uzumaki fragment, 80 gold coins. Ino Yamanaka fragment, 80 gold coins. Kisame Hoshigaki fragment, 300 gold coins. Deodara fragment, 480 gold coins. Looking at the refreshed ninja fragments and considering the vast number of vampires, Charles decisively bought all of them. After spending 3,760 gold coins, Charles obtained fragments for 4 ninjas, Naruto Uzumaki, Ino Yamanaka, Kisame Hoshigaki, and Deodara. After buying all the available fragments in the ninja store, Kisame had accumulated 8 fragments, and Deodara had 4. Charles thought to himself, it would be great if members of the Akatsuki organization could appear in the ninja store every day. In that case, I could recruit an Akatsuki member every 10 days. After clearing out the ninja store, Charles didn't linger on the system interface. Instead, he directly exited and put on his clothes before heading downstairs. In the dining area downstairs, Charles walked over to Ginny and sat down. Seeing Charles arrive, Ginny joked, "Boss, your morning routine is really slow." Charles, taking a bite of the bread, explained, "Irika sent some news, so it delayed me a bit." After finishing the bread, Charles took a bite of the sunny-side-up egg on the table and said, "This molten egg tastes good." Seeing Charles having breakfast, Ginny suddenly asked, "I heard we have a new teammate, named Tsunade Senju. Aren't you going to introduce her to everyone?" Charles, after swallowing the egg, picked up the milk and took a sip before saying, "When Irika and the others come back, we'll arrange a gathering. Everyone can get to know each other then." Ginny nodded without saying much. She had prepared herself mentally for the arrival of another female ninja, but she didn't expect the second one to come so quickly after Shizuan, and the second one's appearance was even more outstanding. After finishing breakfast, Charles wiped his mouth and said, "Let's go. After getting in the car, you can fill me in on the arrangements." Exiting the agency building, Charles saw a Rolls-Royce waiting at the door. He and Ginny got into the car. John Wick was the one responsible for driving today. Seeing Charles get into the car, he greeted, "Good morning, Lord Charles." Seeing John driving, Charles was a bit surprised. "Why are you the one driving?" Ginny explained, "Today, you're attending the Stark Industries board meeting, making your formal debut in front of the media. I specifically called him over for this. It's a bit wasteful, but occasionally having him play the role of my driver is fine." John smiled and didn't say anything. Instead, he started the car and headed towards Stark Industries. At this moment, Ginny took out a document and began, "After a series of operations, we have acquired a total of 8.2% of the shares. Mainly, some people were competing with us for the shares. Otherwise, with our funds, we could have obtained at least 10% of the shares." Charles took out a tablet from the side of his seat, logged into his email, and said, 8.2% is not bad. I'm satisfied with this shareholding." Seeing that Charles had no objections, Ginny continued, "After the shareholder meeting, there will be a press conference where you need to appear. At that time, we will announce some news, such as becoming the major shareholder of Stark Industries, the establishment of a charity fund, and the groundbreaking ceremony for the orphanage in Hell's Kitchen." At this point, Charles had already opened the mission report sent by Irika and was looking at its contents. He said, "Okay, I got it." Seeing Charles earnestly reading the document on the tablet, Ginny also took a glance. Feeling Ginny's gaze, Charles didn't hide it. After reading the content on the tablet, he threw it to her and said, "This is Irika's mission record. In London, they discovered a large number of vampires and werewolves." Hearing Charles's words, Ginny exclaimed, "Werewolves and vampires? These kinds of creatures actually exist?" Even John Wick, who was driving, perked up his ears. It seemed that he was also curious. Chapter 203, Alexander Corvinus. Observing the somewhat surprised expression on Ginny's face, Charles spoke calmly, "Yes, werewolves and vampires are real, but they have always been covered up by someone. Originally, there were quite a large number of vampires here in New York, but a vampire hunter here, in an event a few years ago, cleared out the vampires in this area. However, he only cleared out one vampire faction. Vampires in this world come from different sources. This time, Irika and the others encountered another vampire group in London. Ginny, be prepared. We will be receiving 1 or 2 vampires and a werewolf team." Hearing about receiving werewolves and vampires, Ginny asked in surprise, "Are they very powerful?" After thinking for a moment, Charles said, "They are more powerful than humans, but they also have obvious weaknesses. However, they are a good choice for guarding the base. Irika has already sent over the intelligence on werewolves and vampires. You can take a look at the content on the tablet." Upon hearing Charles's words, Ginny turned his attention to the tablet in his hand. At this moment, Charles took out his phone and directly called Irika. "Irika, I've received all the blood cores brought by Parker. They're useful. I've read your mission information. One of the elders of the vampires, Marcus, is still alive. Find him and kill him directly. Besides Selene and Michael mentioned in your mission report, Bring back all the blood cores of the vampires in London. As for the werewolves who want to join, as long as there's no resistance, accept them all. At the other end of the phone, Irika replied, understood, Lord Charles. There is no resistance among the remaining werewolves. Very well. Also, find a way to bring back Alexander Corvinus. He is the ancestor of vampires and werewolves. His blood is valuable and can enhance the strength of werewolves and vampires. As for other matters in London, handle them as you see fit. Yes, Lord Charles. After hanging up the phone, Charles leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes to rest. John Wick, who was driving, was curious about what kind of existence werewolves and vampires were, while Ginny was immersed in Irika's mission report. On the other side, the special forces responsible for cleaning up the traces of werewolves and vampires had returned to an aircraft carrier in the sea in an armed helicopter. In a monitoring room on the aircraft carrier, several soldiers were monitoring all alarm calls and information in London, ensuring they received news of vampires and werewolves at the earliest opportunity. At this moment, several special forces soldiers entered the office on the warship and respectfully called out to a white-bearded old man. Commander. This man was Alexander Corvinus. Seeing his subordinates reporting, he asked, can those witnesses be kept silent? Soldier Vollerock replied, except for the 4 people involved in the incident, all other personnel will keep their mouths shut as you commanded. Alexander Corvinus stood up from his chair at this moment and said, show me what you've found. Yes, Commander. Vollerock and Alexander went to the computer in the monitoring area and played a video. It was a scene of an attack at the subway station. 2 vampires were killed, and their bodies were taken away by these 4. As for the werewolf's body, it was not found. The werewolf clearly used some new type of weapon, some kind of ultraviolet bullets. Alexander watched the surveillance video and pondered for a moment before asking, what about Amelia? Vollerock reopened a video on the computer. He said, they didn't leave anyone alive. The werewolves teamed up with those 4, and they attacked Amelia's train. What about Victor? Vollerock changed a USB drive and opened another video, showing the werewolf's face. The video was filled with corpses, including the fallen body of Victor. Can't find any trace of Marcus in the ruins. He should still be in his lair, but I suspect he has already awakened. Alexander pointed to the screen showing Irika's team of 4 and asked, who are they? Vollerock brought up individual portraits of the 4, then said, according to our intelligence search, these 4 are adjudicators of the high table. They are called Irika Umino, Uchiha Sasuke, Uzumaki Naruto, and Rock Lee. Alexander muttered, high table, adjudicators, these assassins killed so many vampires. Do you know why they helped the werewolves? Vollerock pulled up a video, showing Reyes entering the London Continental Hotel and the scene of him leaving with the 4. It should be this werewolf who went to the New York Continental Hotel for a mission. At present, these 4, along with the remaining dozen or so werewolves, have checked into the Continental Hotel in London. Alexander pondered for a moment and then said, I want to meet them. Vollerock was surprised, Commander. Arrange it. After saying this, Alexander left the current room and went to the room where the bodies of werewolves and vampires were stored. He took a set of keys from Lucian and Victor's bodies. It was the key to open, and lock, the dungeon where his other son, William, was held. New York. Stark Industries building. At this moment, Charles just arrived by car. As soon as he got out of the car, he was surrounded by numerous reporters, who began taking pictures frantically. Today was the day of the Stark Industries shareholders meeting, and many reporters were curious about the people who will arrive at this meeting. Sir, are you a shareholder of Stark Industries? Sir, how do you view Tony Stark's latest battle armor development? Sir, will Stark Industries resume weapon sales? Seeing the numerous reporters in front of him, John Wick quickly ran over to disperse the reporters and clear the way for Charles. Ginny, who was beside him, also spoke, we won't accept any interviews until the shareholder meeting is over. There will be a dedicated press conference afterward. After saying this, Ginny and Charles, under the guidance of John Wick, entered Stark Industries building. As the 3 entered, the reporters were completely isolated outside the door. Charles laughed and said, these reporters are really crazy. Boss, wait until your shareholding is exposed, and you'll find them even crazier. Charles shrugged, didn't say anything, and walked toward the shareholder meeting room upstairs. Chapter 204, Joining. The doors of the conference room opened, and Charles entered with his secretary, Ginny, and John Wick. Tony Stark saw Charles and immediately stood up from his seat, walking over to Charles and giving him a hug. He then laughed, "Hey, old buddy." Charles also smiled and replied, "Tony, long time no see." Tony led Charles to a seat beside him. When the other shareholders saw this, they frowned slightly. They had investigated the new shareholder, Charles Doyle, but apart from knowing his name, they had no other information. Seeing that the newcomer was friends with Tony Stark, they realized that this shareholders' meeting was not simple. With everyone in attendance, the shareholder meeting officially began. Before the meeting, Tony somehow acquired all of Obadiah's shares, gaining control in the company. With the support of Charles, the second largest shareholder, he became the chairman of Stark Industries with absolute dominance. Stark Industries has a new direction for development. The weapons division will be permanently closed. At this moment, a shareholder asked, "Tony, we support you regaining control and researching what you like. But the mechanical armor we saw in the news, will it become the company's new flagship product?" Tony looked at the greedy eyes of the other shareholders and firmly said, "I am Iron Man, and Iron Man is me. This is my personal property and will not become part of the company. But as for the company's new direction, I have found it. It will focus on providing large-scale clean energy. I believe in the field of energy, Stark Industries will become a new giant and achieve results far beyond arms manufacturing. After all, not everyone needs weapons, but affordable clean energy is something everyone will demand." Watching Tony confidently speak on stage, Charles completely supported his idea. After all, he only wanted to ride on this bandwagon. Under Tony's series of policies, Charles knew that the other party did not give the arc reactor technology to the company for free, but only authorized a new type of arc reactor technology, which was still quite large. Charles couldn't help but admire Tony. He authorized the company to use the arc reactor, and the company made money by using the arc reactor and selling energy. No wonder he had the funds to create so many Mark series suits later on. On the other side, London Continental Hotel. After hanging up the phone, Irika started thinking about the next actions. At this moment, Naruto rushed in. "Irika-sensei, that vampire Selene has awakened." Hearing Naruto's words, Irika stood up and said, "Let's go, let's take a look together." Arriving at the room where Selene was, the lights were on inside, and there was no window. It was a room specially arranged by Irika, and Michael was guarding beside Selene. Seeing Irika coming in, Suzuki and Lee greeted, "Irika-sensei." Irika nodded and walked to Selene's bedside, asking, "How's the memory extraction going?" Selene glanced at everyone in the room, knowing that the people before her were not to be messed with. She replied, "I obtained all of his memories and learned that my enemy is Victor." Irika pondered for a moment and asked, "Will Victor's memories, spanning over 1,000 years, have any impact on you?" Looking at Irika, Selene lowered her head and said, "His memories are coherent, with a sense of time. They won't have any effect on me. These memories are like files in a computer. I can search for specific segments when needed. Obtaining someone else's memories won't turn me into another person." Satisfied with Selene's response, Irika nodded. Watching Selene and Michael in the room, Irika thought for a moment before speaking, "Our organization is preparing to absorb both of you and make you one of us. Furthermore, we plan to eliminate the vampires here, including the remaining elder, Marcus." Upon hearing Irika's words, Michael looked at Selene and then volunteered, "I'm willing to join you, but I don't know much about the organization and what I need to do. Before these changes occurred, I was a surgeon." Lying on the bed, Selene took the initiative to speak, "I'm willing to join." Selene knew that she had no choice. It was either join or await death. After all, the words about eliminating vampires were practically a death sentence. Naruto, upon hearing that the two would join, exclaimed, "We've got two more partners." Satisfied with the straightforward answers from the two, Irika nodded and then said, "We are under the command of Lord Charles Doyle. When you join, you'll need to swear allegiance to Lord Charles in New York." Irika then briefly explained Lord Charles's sphere of influence and his identity. After listening to the explanation, Selene asked with some confusion, "We've looked into the High Table, and their influence is not even comparable to the vampires." To Selene's question, Irika smiled and said, "This is just a role we play. We haven't integrated the entire High Table because it's unnecessary. Having a seat for an elder is already enough for us. What do you need us to do?" Irika looked at the two and said, we need your ability to gain memories through blood, to help us with certain tasks. And we will enhance your strength, making you immune to sunlight and improving your overall abilities. But before that, we need you to provide information on the vampire's power distribution and cooperate with us to first break into the vampire castle in London. Selene looked at everyone in the room and said, "My family was killed by vampires. Over the years, I've done many wrong things. I want to kill them and avenge my family. There are 3 elder vampires, Amelia, Victor, and Marcus. You've already killed the first 2, but in terms of strength, Amelia and Victor combined are no match for Marcus." Hearing that the 2, combined, were no match for Marcus, Irika and the others showed no concern. In fact, Sasuke's eyes even held a hint of interest. Seeing that there was no change in their expressions, Selene continued, "There are many vampires, widely distributed. Apart from Victor and Marcus' resting places, there are many other strongholds, mainly divided into 3 major branches, the Northern Branch, Western Branch, and Eastern Branch. The largest one is the Eastern Branch, and the headquarters of the Vampire Council is established there." Selene explained all the information she knew about the vampire territories and history. Chapter 205, Charity Fund. After listening to Selene's story, Irika and the others showed no fear, instead, they became more excited. The more vampires there are, the more blood cores they could obtain. Since Lord Charles had clearly stated that blood cores were valuable, having more meant bringing in more ninjas, more comrades, and more family members. "Very well, your information has been a great help to us. However, it's daytime now, and you're not suitable for action. When night falls, we'll go to Marcus's castle and wipe out the vampires inside." Hearing Irika's words, Selene nodded without saying much. Although that place was the second birthplace of her new life, it was also the power base established by her enemies. New York. The Stark shareholders' meeting concluded. Charles left Stark Industries and arrived at the scene of the press conference. In the crowded press conference hall, numerous reporters sat, and even Tony joined in, adding to the excitement. With the host's introduction, Charles stepped onto the stage. "Orphans have always been a more tragic and pitiful group in this world, but children are the future and hope. To reflect the good spiritual outlook of New York City and to support these children in need, I, Charles Doyle, hereby establish the Heart to Heart Charity Fund, with an initial investment of $300 million, dedicated to solving the living problems of orphans. To achieve this, I plan to build a large orphanage in an area on the West Bank of Manhattan, specifically for adopting local orphans, providing them with a warm home." At this moment, the atmosphere in the room fell silent. Everyone knew that the West Bank of Manhattan was none other than the notorious Hell's Kitchen. A journalist suddenly spoke up, "Mr. Charles, are you saying you are going to build an orphanage on the West Bank of Manhattan?" Charles looked at the questioning journalist and said, "I know what you want to say. Yes, it's there, the infamous Hell's Kitchen. But why?" Before the journalist could finish, Charles interrupted, "In New York, the number of orphans is not small. However, in my opinion, the place that urgently needs salvation is the orphans in Hell's Kitchen. In other areas of the city, there are local orphanages and support from various charitable individuals, but in Hell's Kitchen, as you all know, it's a different story. That place is chaotic, violent, and filled with even darker elements. Plus, there is no orphanage in the vicinity. These children, especially in such an environment, need my help and rescue. Only then can they have hope and a chance to escape from that place, becoming normal individuals living in the world, rather than becoming a societal burden." As Charles spoke confidently on the stage, Tony nodded approvingly. He had read about Charles's background and knew about his growth. Tony greatly appreciated Charles's charitable decision. After all, he believed that becoming an assassin was an unavoidable factor in Charles's growth. However, what Tony didn't know was that Charles's establishment of the charity fund was merely for legitimate tax avoidance. As for building the orphanage in Hell's Kitchen, it was just because he had a piece of land there that he could put to good use. For example, he could sell this piece of land at an exorbitant price to the newly established charity fund, using the funds for the construction of the orphanage. In a corner of the room, Agent Carlson attended the press conference, documenting every word and analyzing Charles's thoughts and actions. A journalist stood up and asked, "Mr. Charles, as everyone knows, the security in the Manhattan West area is a significant concern. Aren't you worried about the safety of the children inside the orphanage?" Seeing that the journalist was directly addressing the safety issue, many people in the audience nodded in agreement. Regarding safety concerns, you don't need to worry. In order to address the safety of orphans, the Heart to Heart Foundation has joined forces with the Mayor of New York, the District Head of Manhattan, and the local police to ensure the safety of the orphanage. I may not be able to solve the security problems in Manhattan, but I can guarantee that the orphanage we build will be a sanctuary, undisturbed. Charles's resolute words earned a round of applause from the reporters. At this point, Tony ran onto the stage and announced, for the Heart to Heart charity fund established by Mr. Charles Doyle, Stark Industries will donate $100 million as support for Mr. Charles's charitable cause. Seeing Tony running to the stage and making the announcement, Charles was momentarily speechless. $100 million. This money would have been so good if he could use it by himself. He could have exchanged it for copper coins to upgrade his equipment and summons. Why did he just donate it like that? He is here to avoid taxes. What is Tony here for? Unaware of Charles's internal struggles, Tony embraced Charles's shoulders and said, "Bro, am I friendly enough for you?" Looking at the enthusiastic Tony, Charles smiled and replied, "You are indeed a good brother." The journalists below, witnessing the warm interaction between Tony and Charles, eagerly snapped their cameras. "Mr. Charles, it's known that you became the second largest shareholder at the Stark shareholders meeting, apart from Mr. Tony, and judging by your appearance, you seem to be good friends." Taking the microphone for Charles, Tony answered on his behalf, "Charles is my friend, with a life-saving bond. He has helped me a lot." Seeing Tony's excited response, Charles felt a bit speechless. This wasn't like Tony, and he didn't seem to be drunk either. The journalist changed the topic. "I remember, Mr. Tony's good friend is the mysterious hero from the mech battle. Mr. Charles, are you the superhero who appeared that day?" Tony, instead of rushing to answer, put the microphone on the table. This question was sensitive, and he couldn't answer for someone else. Charles looked at the numerous journalists' gazes and slowly spoke, "I am not a superhero." After saying this, Charles turned and left the press conference scene. Seeing this scene, Tony thought he had messed up Charles's press conference and followed suit. Observing the two leaving figures, the reporters in the audience immediately pressed their shutters frantically. On the sidelines, Agent Coulson felt a bit disappointed, thinking, he didn't admit it. After all, this journalist was prompted by them to bring up this topic. Chapter 206, Alexander delivered to the door. Tony, entering the backstage room, looked at Charles in front of him and awkwardly said, "Bro, I didn't mean to mess up your press conference." Seeing Tony actually apologize, Charles was a bit surprised. "Hey, bro, what are you thinking? You didn't mess up my press conference, and besides, I'm not a superhero, am I?" Hearing Charles deny being a superhero, Tony spoke up, "Bro, that day you not only saved me and Pepper but also countless bystanders. If you're not a superhero, then what am I?" Listening to Tony's words, Charles corrected, "Tony, you are a superhero, but I'm not, and I don't want to be a superhero. Let's not dwell on this issue, Tony. What's my next schedule, Ginny?" Ginny, holding a folder, spoke up, "Boss, next we need to go to the Hell's Kitchen and witness the groundbreaking ceremony for the orphanage." "Okay, then let's head to the orphanage next." After saying that, Charles turned to Tony and asked, "I'm going to attend the ceremony for the orphanage. Are you coming?" Seeing Charles shift the topic away from superhero matters, Tony smiled, "Bro, I invested $100 million in it, how can I not attend?" "Okay, let's go then." London Continental Hotel. At this time, Irika and the others had already left Selene's room. While they were resting, a phone call came to Irika's room from the hotel front desk. "Sir, there's a guest who wants to meet you." "I got it." Irika didn't ask the staff for too much information. At this time, someone coming to see him must be a werewolf since vampires wouldn't approach at this hour. He arrived at the hotel lounge, guided by the waiter, and met the person who wanted to see him. Wearing combat gear and armed, clearly military, it seemed different from what Irika had guessed. Voli Rock, looking at the approaching Umino Irika, sensed a strong threat and hostility from him. He had survived in the military, becoming the leader of a squad, and had come through battles with vampires and werewolves, relying on his keen intuition. Irika sat across from him, separated by a table. "I am Umino Irika. Who are you, and why did you ask to meet me?" Seeing that the other person got straight to the point, Voli Rock didn't waste time either and said, "I am Voli Rock. Our unit is mainly responsible for the aftermath of werewolf and vampire incidents. Our Supreme Commander, Alexander Corvinus, wants to meet you. Upon hearing Alexander Corvinus's name, Irika remained expressionless, but inwardly he was delighted. This is like falling into my lap. He had just been thinking about how to find this person, and now he came to him willingly. In other words, you guys are hiding the existence of werewolves and vampires from the world. Yes, sir. After all, the existence of these two races poses a significant threat to ordinary people. We are here to bury all of this and handle the aftermath. Listening to the explanation, Irika realized that this was different from what Selene had told him. Selene mentioned an agreement between the Vampire Council and humans for mutual non-interference. Even Victor, once a European noble, had found Marcus through special means and asked him to turn him into a vampire. Over the years, with technological advancements, vampires could coexist peacefully. Besides the Council's agreements, some politicians and nobles actively advocated for vampires, hoping to become part of their community before the end of their lifespan. On the other hand, vampires had also developed synthetic blood through research, eliminating the need to harm humans. Unexpectedly, apart from those individuals, the progenitor of vampires and werewolves, Alexander Corvinus, was also covering for his evolved kin. All right, I agree to meet him. Wait here for me, I'll go up and explain, then come back down. Seeing Irika agree so easily, Volleyrok breathed a sigh of relief. His mission as the commander was accomplished. Back in the room upstairs, Irika called Naruto, Sasuke, and Rock Lee. Naruto, I'm assigning you a task. Keep an eye on Michael and Selene. Don't let them leave before we come back. As for those werewolves, you can tell them that we are willing to accept them. If they want to leave, don't stop them. Excited to receive a task, Naruto shouted, I promise to complete the mission. After Naruto left, leaving only Sasuke and Rock Lee, Irika pondered for a moment before speaking. I'm going to meet Alexander Corvinus. He's the target Lord Charles asked to capture. According to the information I have, he might be in a military base. What you two need to do is, an hour after I leave, use Parker to track my location. Find where I am, infiltrate and eliminate the enemies inside, then take him with you when you come. Understood. X2. After giving instructions to the two, Irika went downstairs and left the Continental Hotel with Volleyrok. Outside, they took a car to a skyscraper with a helipad on the roof. Then, they boarded an armed helicopter, heading towards an aircraft carrier in the English Channel. On the other side, Hell's Kitchen, construction site of the orphanage. Charles had just performed the groundbreaking ceremony, marking the beginning of the construction of the first orphanage for the Heart to Heart Charity Fund. Accompanying Charles were not only Tony and others but also numerous media and politicians. With the presence of the newly appointed major shareholder of Stark Industries and Tony Stark himself, the reporters on the scene were abundant. In addition, the mayor of New York and the district mayor were also present. This was a great place to boost their political achievements, and they were supportive of the cause. After completing the ceremony, Charles approached Ginny, took off her gloves, and asked, "How long will it take to build this orphanage?" 6 months, and we've chosen an architectural team from the East. Surprised that it was from the East, Charles asked, "Isn't it the same construction company as our base?" Ginny nodded and said, "Yes, I even want to replace Lend-Lease, the company responsible for building the base. Despite being the largest construction company in the US, they are not ideal. It's a pity that we signed a contract with them, and they've already been working for some time." Charles nodded, urged them to speed up the process. "What's next?" "Boss, there's a charity banquet tonight. After that, today's schedule will be completely over." After thinking for a moment, Charles said, "Bring Shizune and Tsunade with you. Dinner will be arranged there." Hearing Charles mentioning Shizune and Tsunade, Ginny looked at Charles and asked, "Boss, who is going to be your dance partner?" Chapter 207, Aircraft Carrier. Just after escaping the clutches of reporters, Tony Stark joined the two of them. "What are you guys talking about? Is there a party tonight? I, as the heavyweight guest, must attend, but I'll be stealing all your limelight." Looking at the proud Tony, Charles smiled, "You must come to the party tonight." At this moment, Ginny stared at Charles, waiting for his answer. Looking at Ginny's gaze, Charles smiled and replied, "Ginny, do you think I'll come out to dance? But I can take you in together." Hearing Charles's words, Ginny rolled her eyes directly and then turned and left. On the side, Tony, seeing this, said, "Do you want me to introduce you to some models or cover girls? They definitely have great looks and figures." Seeing Tony boasting about his past achievements, Charles patted him on the shoulder and then said softly, "Pepper Potts is coming." Hearing that Pepper was coming, Tony quickly turned his head to look, only to find that Pepper was dealing with reporters and hadn't come over. "You fellow!" Charles laughed, then chatted casually with Tony. London Continental Hotel. An hour after Irika left the hotel, Sasuke used summoning jutsu to summon Parker. "Parker, help us track Irika-sensei's location." Summoned Parker looked around, sniffed the ground, and finally looked up at the sky, pondered for a moment, and then said, "Follow me." Irika's location is very far away, and he left through the sky. "By plane," Sasuke guessed. Then, with Sasuke and Rock Lee following him, Parker ran towards the distance. At this moment, Irika, following Volley Rock, arrived on an aircraft carrier in the English Channel. After getting off the helicopter, Irika looked at the aircraft carrier under his feet and thought to himself, "Trouble." Having been in this world for many years, Irika had a general understanding of the weapons and military equipment of this world. From small bullets and firearms to tanks and aircraft carriers, from a few kilograms of TNT bombs to the largest Tsar nuclear bombs, Irika had some knowledge and understanding of their power. The weapons on this aircraft carrier, such as the ship cannons, missiles, and fighter planes, were not easy to deal with. However, as long as they were not discovered in advance and could directly infiltrate the aircraft carrier, these weapons would be useless. Following Volley Rock, Irika entered the interior of the aircraft carrier and came to a combat room. Around the room were several heavily armed soldiers, and in the middle of the room sat Alexander Corvinus. Volley Rock walked to Alexander's side and reported, "Commander, he is Irika Umino, the only adult among the four." After speaking, Volley Rock stood in the corner of the room. Alexander did not dismiss his subordinates but quietly looked at Irika. Irika looked at the man in front of him and asked, "Are you Alexander Corvinus?" "That was my former name, now I'm called Lorenzo Macaro." "Of course, no matter what you're called, names are just code names. However, the inheritance of bloodlines will never be severed." Irika looked at the man in front of him, thinking about the information he had gathered. This was a creature that had lived for over 1,000 years. After some contemplation, he still said uncertainly, "You're the ancestor of vampires and werewolves, the source of their bloodlines." Alexander sat in the chair, pondered for a moment, and then spoke, "It seems you know quite a bit. I watched my descendants killing each other, even slaughtering humans. This was an unexpected result, and I did everything I could to stop it. As the war escalated, I cleaned up after them, covered up everything, concealed the family's shameful past. Now, Mr. Irika, where did you learn all this, and why are you hired by the werewolves?" Upon hearing Alexander's question, Irika looked around and then said, "As a guest, don't I have the right to an equal dialogue? Bring a chair for him." Soon, a soldier brought a chair and placed it behind Irika. Irika sat down, contemplating when Sasuke and the others could infiltrate here. After all, he alone had no confidence in escaping from the aircraft carrier with a living Alexander. "I was hired by Rays, a werewolf, to protect them for 3 days, at the cost of 10 Continental Hotel gold coins and 3 million pounds. Hearing that he was hired by the werewolves, Alexander smiled. Although he believed in the explanation, he knew it wasn't that simple, especially after seeing Ray's body. "Since you're hired by Rays, why did you take something from the vampires, and what value does it have?" As he spoke, Alexander took out a blood core from a drawer and placed it in his palm. Looking at the serious expression of the other party, Irika smiled, "Don't you think it looks like a gem? I think this thing has a certain collection value. Selling it is also a good idea." At this time, Sasuke and Rock Lee were racing on the sea surface following Parker. The aircraft carrier was not docked in the port but sailing in the open sea. Parker looked at the distant aircraft carrier, turned his head to the two and said, "Irika's aura has stopped moving, right above that big ship ahead." At this point, Sasuke and Rock Lee stopped their pace and stood on the sea surface. The carrier in the distance looked like a small dot, indicating the distance between them. "Parker, are you sure Irika-sensei is on that big ship ahead?" Parker nodded and then confirmed, "His aura has stopped moving there, it's on that big ship." Looking at the distant ship, Sasuke said, "All right, Parker, you can go back. Be safe." After saying that, Parker didn't stay and returned to the summoning world directly. Rock Lee, who was standing on the side, asked curiously, "What's wrong, Sasuke?" Sasuke looked at the distant aircraft carrier and explained, "That's an aircraft carrier in this world. If we run over like this during the day, we will definitely be discovered. By then, the weapons above will bombard us, and it won't be easy for us. We need to figure out a way to infiltrate." After thinking for a moment, Sasuke made hand seals, summoning jutsu. Sasuke directly summoned AODA. "It's you, Sasuke. Is there anything I can help with?" AODA, with a big head, asked Sasuke and Rock Lee on the sea surface. Chapter 208, Internal and External Cooperation. AODA, I and Rock Lee will hide in your mouth. We need you to dive into the sea and swim under the distant aircraft carrier. After Rock Lee and I reach the top of the enemy aircraft carrier, you can release poison mist below, enveloping the entire carrier, but do not attack or damage the hull. Upon hearing Sasuke's instructions, AODA turned his head to look at the distant aircraft carrier on the sea, then opened his big mouth and said, "Come in, I understand." Watching AODA's mouth, which was almost the size of a house, Sasuke jumped in without hesitation, and Rock Lee quickly followed suit. Sitting on AODA's tongue, Rock Lee touched the adjacent tongue and said, "Sasuke, do you think AODA might swallow us with a gulp of saliva?" Before Sasuke could respond, AODA's voice sounded, "I am a professional, how could I swallow you two little guys?" With that, AODA closed his mouth and dived into the sea, swimming towards the distant aircraft carrier. Meanwhile, on the aircraft carrier. After Alexander had a conversation with Irika, he spoke up. "Your strength is formidable. Being able to easily kill Amelia and Victor without getting hurt yourself is something I highly value. I want to end the war between werewolves and vampires. Are you willing to help me? Of course, it will be in the form of a commissioned task, and you can name your price." Alexander, after understanding their strength, conceived this idea. Although he had a long lifespan, seemingly eternal, his personal strength had not increased like his two children. He had not considered transforming into a half-wolf, half-vampire to enhance his abilities. He always maintained his human bloodline. Due to this limitation, he couldn't completely resolve the war between werewolves and vampires. He couldn't subdue his children with his own strength. Although he had confidence in killing Marcus using firearms, as a father, he couldn't bring himself to do that to his only remaining sons, Marcus and William. But the arrival of Irika and others made him contemplate a new idea, introducing a more powerful entity, achieving peace between the two factions, preventing them from killing each other. Alexander was also aware of the cloned blood produced by the vampires. With the support of this substance, vampires didn't need to hunt humans and could seamlessly integrate into society. Irika looked at Alexander and had no interest in the task he proposed. In his view, vampires were an irrational existence. Moreover, the vampires, especially Alexander, were a source of energy for Lord Charles. How could he contribute to the peace between the two factions? When Irika was about to dismiss Alexander's offer, the alarm suddenly sounded on the aircraft carrier. Gunshots and screams echoed from outside. Sasuke and Rock Lee had already reached the carrier's deck and initiated an attack. In the room, Alexander's expression changed. Before he could say anything, Irika's figure disappeared with a swift movement. Afterwards, the 6 guards in Alexander's room were instantly killed with their throats cut. Just as Alexander was about to resist, a kunai was pressed against his neck. "Alexander Corvinus, our leader wishes to see you." Feeling the coldness on his neck, Alexander remained calm and asked, "Who are you, and what do you want with me? In this vast sea, you can't leave without my permission." At this moment, the room's door was kicked open, and a team of soldiers rushed in. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Several shurikens flew out, instantly dealing with the soldiers who had just opened the door. Due to the calm sea and the swift spread of AODA's poison mist, the gunfire resistance on the deck gradually diminished. Inside the carrier, other personnel in the control room, seeing the changes on the deck through the monitors, rushed to the equipment room to find gas masks. However, their speed was too slow. Sasuke and Rock Lee, who had stormed in, quickly eliminated them. Irika's voice sounded coldly, "Tell your subordinates to surrender. Otherwise, there may be no one left alive except you." Hearing Irika's words, Alexander calmly said, "Although my carrier is not fully equipped, it still has 3,000 personnel. Are you sure they will make it in alive without my permission? Despite being abducted, Alexander had great confidence in his subordinates. With a fully armed force of 3,000 soldiers, a few individuals couldn't kill them all. At this moment, another small team of soldiers, wearing gas masks, approached the room where Irika was located. Sensing the approaching footsteps, Irika didn't hesitate, saying, "Since you don't want to surrender, then you'll have to pay for your actions." In the midst of speaking, Irika swiftly knocked Alexander unconscious with a hand chop. After that, he quickly tied him up and placed him under the table. Then, he rushed out. At this moment, a flashbang grenade, along with a tear gas canister, was thrown inside. Seeing the thrown objects, Irika, in a speed faster than the enemies, charged out. He held a kunai, utilizing the most straightforward and efficient method, quickly dealing with the entire combat team. The opponents had only fired a burst of bullets at the moment they fell. Several stray bullets hit Irika, but it had no effect. The latest bulletproof jacket from the Continental Hotel could not be penetrated by the bullets from the assault rifle. This was why Irika didn't bother dodging the stray bullets. At this point, Irika killed from the inside out, while Sasuke and Rock Lee swept from the outside in. On the deck, numerous soldiers fell, all succumbing to death after inhaling AODA's poison mist. Under the coordinated efforts of the three, all the soldiers on the aircraft carrier were soon dead. Due to Alexander's high prestige, not a single soldier surrendered. In their eyes, their leader had long fallen at the hands of Irika and the others. Now, the three regrouped, and Irika looked at his two students, sighing, "You arrived just in time. Follow me." The trio arrived at Alexander's room. Irika pulled out the already unconscious Alexander from under the desk, saying, "This is our target. The mission is now complete." Chapter 209, Mobile Base. At this moment, only Irika, Sasuke, Rock Lee, and the captive Alexander remained alive on the entire aircraft carrier. Sasuke looked at Irika, pondered for a moment, and then spoke, "Irika-sensei, how about we present this aircraft carrier to Lord Charles as a collectible?" Hearing Sasuke's suggestion, Irika contemplated for a moment and then said, "That's a good idea, but how do we transport this thing back? Keep in mind that operating this carrier requires a considerable number of personnel, and clearly, the three of us are not enough." Rock Lee chimed in, "We can have AODA carry the carrier back to the summoning world." Sasuke, however, reminded, "AODA's length is insufficient, only 100 meters. This carrier is 70 meters wide, AODA can't wrap around it and bring it back to the summoning world." After thinking for a moment, the trio couldn't come up with a good solution. At this point, Sasuke took out a satellite phone and, seeing a signal, dialed Charles's number. Charles, who was chatting with Tony, heard his phone ringing. Upon seeing Sasuke's call, he greeted Tony and then walked to an open space nearby. "Sasuke, what's happening?" "Lord Charles, while capturing Alexander Corvinus, we also seized the aircraft carrier he owned. We want to bring this thing back as a trophy for you, but we're not sure how to proceed." Hearing the word aircraft carrier, Charles was momentarily stunned. Every Chinese person has aircraft carrier dream, but he never expected to obtain one himself, and as a spoil of war no less. Charles didn't immediately respond but pondered for a moment. He couldn't bring this thing back himself. Not only did he lack the expertise, but such a large carrier near the US coastline would immediately attract naval attacks. Although he couldn't bring it back now, Charles wasn't ready to give up. He could store it in his storage space for now and take it out when it became usable. "I'm entering the summoning world now. Wait for 10 minutes, then summon Gamakaki. I'll come over and take the carrier." "Understood, Lord Charles." After the call ended, Sasuke informed Irika and Rock Lee, "Lord Charles will use reverse summoning jutsu to come over. We should wait for him outside." Hearing that Charles would handle the matter, both nodded. "Take him with us, let's go outside and wait for Lord Charles," Irika said as he put a gas mask on Alexander. Then, with Sasuke, Rock Lee, and Alexander in tow, they headed to the open area by the sea. On the other side, Charles, who had excused himself from Tony and Ginny's conversation, said, "Tony, I have something to take care of. We'll meet at the banquet tonight." "Sure thing, Charles. See you tonight," Tony replied nonchalantly. After bidding farewell to Tony, Charles greeted Ginny before hurrying to an empty room. Using the reverse summoning jutsu, he entered the summoning world. Because he used the contract with Gamakaki, Charles appeared directly by Gamakaki's side. At this moment, Gamakaki was having a feast of insects. Since he had no tribe members or parents to cook for him after coming here, he had to fend for himself. Seeing Charles suddenly appear, Gamakaki asked, "Lord Charles, I made some food. Would you like to join me?" Looking at the food next to Gamakaki, Charles hesitated for a moment before refusing. "No need, Gamakaki. I came here mainly for your help." After explaining the situation to Gamakaki, Charles jumped onto Gamakaki. In just 10 minutes, Charles and Gamakaki disappeared in the summoning world and appeared above the sea. At this moment, Charles stood on Gamakaki's back, and what came into view was a massive aircraft carrier enveloped in green toxic fog. Lord Charles. Jumping down from Gamakaki, Charles stood on the surface of the sea, looking at his 3 subordinates and the captive in their hands. He spoke, "You've worked hard." Looking at the captive in Irika's hands, Charles asked, "Is he Alexander Corvinus? Take him with you, and we'll return together later." Irika, looking at the captive, thought for a moment before saying, "Lord Charles, we learned from Selene that besides London, there are also large numbers of vampires in several other regions. We plan to go and hunt them down." Charles, after looking at the 3 people, spoke, "After dealing with the vampires in London, you can bring the captive back first. We have a new member joining our team, and we can all gather when I return. As for vampires in other regions, there's no need to eliminate them all at once. We can handle those missions later." "Yes, Lord Charles," Irika respectfully replied. Looking at the 3 of them, Charles asked, "What about Naruto? Didn't he participate in this mission? I had him guard Selene, Michael, and others at the Continental Hotel." "All right, I see." Charles then approached the aircraft carrier. Standing on the sea surface, he touched the deck with one hand, and chakra surged out, enveloping the entire ship. It was Charles's enormous chakra that made this possible. Another person wouldn't be able to achieve such a feat. Collect. With a thought from Charles, the aircraft carrier enveloped in chakra was directly collected into the storage space. Seeing this scene, Sasuke and the others were amazed. Although they were mentally prepared, seeing such a massive object being collected in an instant still made them feel incredibly impressed. A substantial amount of chakra was used, and although there was no change in Charles's face, he felt a slight emptiness inside. After collecting the aircraft carrier, Charles took out his phone and called Tsunade. "Tsunade, I'm currently outside. In 3 minutes, use summoning jutsu to summon a spirit ninja dog to your side." Charles knew that Tsunade was in the agency. That place couldn't accommodate Gamakaki's size, but summoning a spirit ninja dog, even the largest one, alongside Charles would be no problem. Looking at Irika and the others, Charles said, "I have something to take care of, I'll leave the rest to you." Chapter 210, Evening Banquet. Just as Charles was about to return, Gamakaki suddenly spoke, "Lord Charles, don't forget my short sword." Hearing Gamakaki's words, Charles was momentarily stunned. He felt a bit awkward as he had forgotten to inform Ginny about the creation of the short sword. However, he maintained a calm expression and calmly said, "Gamakaki, your short sword is too large, and forging it will take some time. I'll bring it to you once it's ready." Gamakaki, unaware of the truth, happily said, "Thank you, Lord Charles." After saying this, Gamakaki directly returned to the summoning world. Meanwhile, Charles used reverse summoning jutsu to appear by the side of the ninja dog. Seeing Charles leaving, Irika looked at Sasuke and Rock Lee, saying, "All right, let's head back to the Continental Hotel." At this moment, Aoda had already returned to the summoning world. The 3 of them, along with Alexander, rushed towards the coastline on the sea. In the vampire castle, Marcus had already restored his strength and returned to his human appearance, sitting on the throne. He looked at Erika, who was kneeling below, and asked, "What's the result now?" Erika, bowing her head, with a hint of unease in her expression, replied, "We dispatched the security team from Ziodex Industries to investigate. Apart from the traces of the fight, there were no signs of any werewolves or vampires. Even corpses were not found, and we have no idea about the whereabouts of Elder Victor and the others." Sitting on the throne, Marcus, recalling the memories of the werewolf doctor, wondered if Lucian had completed the fusion and defeated Victor and the others. After a moment of contemplation, Marcus said, "Check all the safe houses through surveillance devices, see if any have been activated." Now that it's daytime, if Victor and the others haven't died, they will definitely find a place to hide. Summon all the vampires outside, let them return to the castle after dark. Yes. After instructing Erica, Marcus looked at her and said, "Go and handle it." Getting Marcus's order, Erica immediately stood up and left without daring to linger. Thinking about the werewolf doctor's memories, Marcus saw the key to imprisoning his brother William on Lucien's body. Although it was only one of the two keys, the whereabouts of the other key were currently unknown. If he could obtain the bloodline power of William, would he be able to create a powerful clan of creatures that were not afraid of sunlight, like the half-werewolf, half-vampire hybrids? However, thinking about Victor's current unknown situation and the mysterious disappearance of the two keys, Marcus felt a headache coming on. In the London Continental Hotel, Erica, leading Alexander bound by ropes, entered the hotel. A hotel staff member approached them cautiously and said, "Lord Erica, killing is not allowed inside the hotel. It's a rule set by the management." Erica, looking at the staff member, replied coldly, "I know." After saying this, he ignored the staff member and, along with Alexander and Suzuki and Rock Lee, returned to their room. Alexander, who was brought back by Erica, had already regained consciousness. Looking at the three people in front of him, he began to speak. He said, "It's you three who defeated the entire fleet of my subordinates." Erica glanced at him and calmly said, "I warned you. Where are you taking me?" Erica ignored Alexander and disassembled his limbs and jaw, then handed him over to the werewolf for custody. "Rest for a while. We'll continue our actions after dark." After instructing Suzuki and Rock Lee with a sentence, Erica walked towards Selene's room. Suzuki and Rock Lee returned to their room to rest. Clearly, the long-distance sprint had taken its toll, and both were fatigued. Meanwhile, Naruto was eagerly listening to Selene's vampire-related stories. Seeing Erica and the others return, he shouted excitedly, "Erica-sensei, you're back." Erica nodded, glanced at the three in the room, and said, "Selene, take us to the vampire castle after dark." "Yes, sir." Michael, who was present, saw that Selene and the others were going to clear the vampire castle and immediately spoke up, "Please take me with you." Erica frowned slightly, looked at Michael, and said, "Although you have gained some power, you don't have much combat strength." Evidently, Erica didn't have much confidence in Michael. He was just an ordinary person who suddenly gained power, and the question of whether he dared to take a life was still uncertain. Upon hearing Erica's refusal, Michael explained, "I can clear some small fries, and, of course, I can help you clean up the battlefield." Hearing Michael's words, Erica nodded and agreed. Night arrived quickly. Erica's team, along with Selene and Michael, set out for the vampire castle. As for the 15 werewolves, 5 were left to guard Alexander, while the remaining 10 went to the vampire castle. They were mainly responsible for blocking all directions of the castle, preventing any vampires from escaping. At the Charles agency, seeing Shizuan and Tsunade, who had already changed their clothes, Charles spoke, "Let's go." John was responsible for driving. Charles, accompanied by Ginny, Shizuan, and Tsunade, arrived at the Disney Music Hall, where the charity banquet was being held. As soon as Charles got out of the car, he heard exclamations from the crowd. "Mr. Charles! So handsome! Oh my gosh! Who is the beauty beside him? Her figure is amazing!" At this moment, Tony Stark, who had arrived early, was being interviewed by a beautiful female reporter. In the field of new energy, Stark Industries has great confidence in becoming a leader in the industry. "My existence, Tony, is the most powerful endorsement for this. And after ceasing the arms trade, Stark Industries has become a compassionate company. For example, this heart-to-heart charity banquet is a good start." While Tony was answering the reporter's questions, the exclamations and countless camera shutters attracted his attention. Since Tony Stark was frequently in the news, many media outlets wanted to dig up something about the mysterious Charles Doyle. Therefore, numerous reporters and media immediately surrounded them. Seeing Charles Doyle approaching, Tony ended the interview and walked over with pepper pots. "The host of this banquet is later than even the guests." Charles hugged Tony briefly, then said, "The banquet hasn't started yet, I don't consider it late." At this moment, numerous reporters, holding cameras, were frantically taking pictures, capturing the friendship between the two. Charles looked at Tony and said with a smile, "Let's go in together." Chapter 211, clearing vampires. Tony put his arm around Charles's shoulder and chuckled, your companions this time are simply outstanding. Where did you find them? Charles laughed and replied, both of them are ninjas. Hearing Charles's answer, Tony raised his eyebrows and asked in a low voice, compared to you. Charles glanced at Tsunade and then gave a thumbs up, indicating that she was stronger than him. Surprised by Charles's gesture, Tony couldn't help but be astonished. At this moment, Pepper Potts came to Ginny's side, and the two of them started talking. On the side, Tsunade and Shizune calmly observed everything, while John stood beside them like a tool. Entering the main venue of the charity banquet, Charles, accompanied by everyone, arrived at the dining area with various pastries and seafood. Tsunade, this is the buffet area. You can eat whatever you want. Charles briefly introduced it to Tsunade, who had recently joined them. Charles didn't care much about the banquet, for him, it was just a place to eat. Tsunade looked at the people in the room, not hesitating to grab her favorite foods. Tony, watching Charles turn the banquet into a meal, smiled and casually picked some food to eat as well. On the other side, Irika, leading the team, boarded 3 armored vehicles and arrived outside the vampire castle. Seeing the closed castle gate, he ordered, smash it open. Selene stepped on the gas, and the armored vehicle directly smashed through the castle's iron gate, rushing in until it stopped at the castle's front door. Get out, and clean up. Yes. Following Irika's command, the members of Irika's team jumped out of the vehicle. Meanwhile, the werewolves in the other 2 armored vehicles formed 2 teams. One team blocked the castle's main gate, and the other headed toward the castle's back gate. Watching the tightly closed door in front of them, Rock Lee approached and delivered a powerful kick. Boom! The door shattered. At this moment, Marcus inside the castle had just gathered his subordinates and was about to search the safe houses and werewolf bases. Suddenly, he heard the sound of the door being smashed. A vampire responsible for the monitoring room ran over and immediately reported, Master, a group of people has attacked. While he was still speaking, the castle hall's door was broken, and debris flew everywhere. Seeing the 6 people at the entrance, Marcus quickly recognized them through the werewolf doctor's memories. I was just looking for you, but I didn't expect you to come to me willingly. Selene, did you betray the vampire family? Irika glanced at Marcus, then turned to Selene and asked, is he Marcus? Yes, he is Marcus, the elder of the vampires. Satisfied with the answer, Irika said, leave Marcus to me, you guys clean up the small fries. Marcus, seeing that the people in front of him didn't take him seriously, showed anger on his face, kill them. Irika, with the kunai in his right hand, charged towards Marcus. Sasuke, Naruto, Rock Lee and others didn't hesitate and chose different directions to engage vampires. Irika swiftly reached Marcus, and with a swing of his kunai, aimed directly at Marcus's head. Marcus leaned backward, narrowly avoiding the attack. Instantly, wings without feathers sprouted from his back, transforming into 2 spears aiming at Irika. Clang! Irika countered with a swift swing, and the kunai clashed against the wings, producing a sound resembling the collision of steel. Taking advantage of the clash, Irika executed a backflip, simultaneously throwing explosive tags. In midair, the tags formed a barrier under Marcus's feet. Observing Irika's actions, Marcus wore a puzzled expression. Boom! Boom! As Irika landed, a massive explosion erupted, flames soaring into the sky, causing the entire castle to shake. As the smoke cleared, Marcus lay on the ground, groaning in pain. During the explosion, he had managed to form a shield using his wings, protecting himself in the nick of time. Unexpectedly, the power of Irika's attack was overwhelming, disintegrating Marcus's wings and severely injuring him. If not for the wings taking the brunt of the impact, he might have perished instantly. Seeing the fallen Marcus, Irika didn't hesitate. He swiftly approached and used a shuriken to decapitate Marcus. The vampire elder, the origin of the vampire lineage, died on the spot. In less than a minute from their assault on the castle, the vampire elder was defeated in combat. Irika glanced at Selene, who was firing her gun, then tossed Marcus's body towards her, shouting, extract his memories. Michael, protect Selene. In the castle hall, the other vampires had been dealt with by Sasuke and the others. Irika and his team split into 4 groups, systematically clearing the entire vampire castle. Staring at Marcus's corpse thrown in her direction, Selene was momentarily stunned. In Victor's memories, Marcus was considered an unbeatable figure. Even Victor himself had been turned into vampire by Marcus. However, this formidable vampire elder hadn't lasted 3 rounds against Irika. With a mix of disbelief and wonder, Selene didn't resist Irika's orders. Instead, she bit into Marcus's lifeless body. A flood of memories overwhelmed her mind, leaving Selene standing in shock. On the sidelines, Michael, witnessing the carnage, remained unfazed. Having experienced so much in just a few days, he was immune to the gruesome scenes. At the same time, he didn't consider other vampires as comrades. His focus was on protecting Selene, preventing any stray vampires from disturbing her. Back in New York, the Disney Hall's banquet had concluded. After bidding farewell to Tony, Charles and the others returned to the agency. In his room, Charles accessed the system interface. Looking at the not yet summoned Temari, an idea crossed his mind. He dragged Temari's ninja card to the combat slot. Ding! Shall Temari manifest within a 3-meter radius? Hearing this system prompt, Charles didn't summon Temari as usual but chose no. Please select the manifestation location. Choosing a random option, Charles also assigned Temari a task through the system, to return to Charles's agency by herself. The randomly chosen location for Temari's manifestation turned out to be the outskirts of Mexico City. Chapter 212, Ninja Recruitment. After arranging things for Temari, Charles didn't exit the system space but instead checked his personal information. Charles Doyle. Age, 21. Occupation, Ninja. VIP level, 3. Attributes, Fire, Lightning, Earth, Wind. Secret Scrolls, Ninjutsu, Protection LV2, reduces damage taken by 90% for 4 seconds, but cannot prevent fatal damage. Ninjutsu, Fury LV1, increases attack power by 6% for 10 seconds after use. Ninjutsu, Shuriken launching LV1, launches a Fuma Shuriken forward, dealing double damage and returning to the owner after reaching the destination. Earth Release, Earthquake LV1, controls the ground to crack and rise, damaging enemies. Enemies within the attack range will be launched into the air. The more chakra used, the larger the damage range, causing a greater ground rupture. Owned ninjas, Uchiha Sasuke, Fusion, Sharingan, Irika Umino, Rock Lee, Fusion, 8 Gates, Shizuan, Ninja School Trainee, Uzumaki Naruto, Temari of the Sand, Konoha's Son and Tsunade. Skills, Fire Release, Great Fireball, Lion Barrage, Chidori, Sharingan, Double Tomo, Shuriken Technique, Barrier Formation, Roar of Love, Infinite Dance, Leaf Whirlwind, Lotus Blossom, Meteor Smash, Leaf Gale, Lily Blossom, Ninjutsu, Poison Mist, Projectile Needle Shot, Swallow Return, Pork Dance, Paint Prank, Shadow Clone, Double Strike, Harem Technique, Windmill Shuriken of Death, Whirlwind Bombardment, Whirlwind of Temari, Temari's Dance, Whirlwind Formation, Monster Strength. Forward Flick, Slug, Acidic Tongue. Reputation, 15,050. Copper Coins, 5,871. Gold Coins, 24,644. Ninja Recruitment Scrolls, 20. Secret Scrolls, 8. Ninja Beads, 2,650. Samsara Stones, 23,100. Summoning Beasts, Ninja Dog Army, Max Level, AODA, Max Level, Gameka Key, Level 15. Artifacts, Inactive. Equipment, Chunin Level Ninja Kunao, Chunin Level Ninja Headband, Chunin Level Ninja Vest, Chunin Level Ninja Manual, Chunin Level Ninja Necklace, Chunin Level Ninja Ring. After glancing at his information, Charles noticed that he was short on copper coins. He transferred $10 million USD from his bank card to exchange for copper coins. Satisfied with the amount, Charles nodded. He then opened the Summoning Beast interface and selected the page for Gameka Key. In the next second, Charles began Gameka Key's upgrading journey. After spending reputation points and 2.3 million copper coins, Charles upgraded Gameka Key to level 25. This significantly increased Gameka Key's strength, but reaching the maximum level of 50 required a considerable amount of reputation. In the summoning realm, Gameka Key felt that his sealed power had recovered, excitedly firing a few water cannons in the vicinity of the new Toad Mountain he had discovered, causing considerable destruction. With over 24,000 gold coins, Charles entered the ninja recruitment space. He spent 3,360 gold coins to purchase 20 ninja recruitment scrolls, reducing his gold coins to 21,284. Having bought everything, Charles exited the system space, thinking that although he hadn't prayed during the last summoning, the recruitment effect was still excellent. This time, Charles decided to play it safe. After exiting the system space, Charles calmed his mind, faced east, and silently prayed, "May the Southern Blue Emperor bless me. Please hear my prayer and grant my wishes. May recruiting powerful ninjas be a success." After completing the prayer ritual, Charles's consciousness entered the system space. Ninja recruitment, 10 consecutive draws, go. The whirlpool emblem of the land of whirlpools appeared before him, emitting a peculiar light. After a dazzling burst of light, the recruitment results appeared before Charles. Ding! Obtained C-rank ninja, Hinata Hyuga fragment X1. Ding! Obtained B-rank ninja, Hinata Hyuga from Naruto Shippuden fragment X1. Ding! Obtained C-rank ninja, Naruto Uzumaki trainee fragment X1. Ding! Obtained A-rank ninja, Itachi Uchiha fragment X1. Ding! Obtained A-rank ninja, Deidara fragment X4. Ding! Obtained A-rank ninja, Deidara fragment X1. Ding! Obtained C-rank ninja, Rock Lee fragment X2. Ding! Obtained C-rank ninja, Zabuza Mamakai fragment X5. Ding! Obtained C-rank ninja, Rock Lee fragment X2. Ding! Obtained C-rank ninja, Hanabi Hyuga fragment X1. Recruitment completed. Charles glanced at the results and was disappointed to find that the guaranteed Itachi Uchiha only yielded 1 fragment. However, he obtained support from Deidara twice, compensating for the letdown. With 5 Deidara fragments and the previous 21, the total reached 26 fragments, only 14 short of the 40 needed for the first member of the Akatsuki organization. Charles collected all the fragments and realized that this round of 10 draws didn't meet the requirements for any ninja. Analyzing the results, Charles found that he had acquired a total of 19 fragments, this time 6 A rank, 1 B rank, and 12 C rank fragments. Unfortunately, Kakashi Hatake, who needed just 2 more fragments to be recruited, didn't appear. After collecting all the fragments, Charles looked at his luck. After some consideration, he decided to continue recruiting. Perhaps the first 10 draws were just a warm-up, and the next round would bring better luck. Ninja recruitment, 10 consecutive draws, go. Observing the summoning changes in the whirlpool emblem of the land of whirlpools, Charles remained calm and simply thought, burst, burst, burst. As the brilliance flickered, the results of the second round of 10 consecutive draws appeared before Charles. Ding! Obtained B rank ninja, Hinata Hyuga from Naruto Shippuden fragment X2. Ding! Obtained A rank ninja, Deidara fragment X4. Ding! Obtained C rank ninja, Irika Umino fragment X1. Ding! Obtained A rank ninja, Kuratsuka from Boruto X4. Ding! Obtained A rank ninja, Itachi Uchiha fragment X5. Ding! Obtained B rank ninja, Kakashi Hatake in his youth fragment X4. Ding! Obtained C rank ninja, Rock Lee fragment X2. Ding! Obtained A rank ninja, Itachi Uchiha fragment X1. Ding! Obtained C rank ninja, Irika Umino fragment X2. Ding! Obtained B rank ninja, Naruto Uzumaki fragment X1. This time, the recruitment results presented a different picture. The screen was filled with A rank and B rank ninjas, mostly the ones Charles needed. Itachi Uchiha, who was guaranteed to appear, gave 6 fragments. This result greatly satisfied him. Apart from that, Kakashi Hatake, who he had been eagerly waiting for, finally met the criteria with 4 fragments this time. Even Deidara and the 4th Tsuchikage yielded fragments. Even the C-rank ninjas from this round of recruitment were useful, as they could be used to upgrade the existing ninjas. Charles was overjoyed by these results. As expected, the first round was just a warm-up, and this second round was a big burst. Chapter 213, Young Hatake Kakashi. After reviewing the recruitment results and collecting a total of 26 ninja fragments from the 10 consecutive draw, Charles felt satisfied with the almost perfect outcome. Among them were 14 A-rank ninja fragments, 7 B-rank ninja fragments, and 5 C-rank ninja fragments. Charles was now only 10 fragments away from acquiring Deidara. Perhaps with just 2 or 3 more 10 consecutive draws or the appearance of Deidara in the ninja shop, he would complete the set. Instead of continuing the ninja recruitment, Charles decided to take a break and exited the recruitment page. He navigated to the ninja section, and the icon for young Hitaki Kakashi was now illuminated. Clicking on Kakashi's icon, it displayed 42/40 fragments, ready for recruitment. Excited to recruit Kakashi, Charles clicked on the ninja recruitment. Ding! Congratulations on successfully recruiting the B-rank ninja, young Hitaki Kakashi. A new image appeared before Charles, depicting a 12-year-old Kakashi with armor on his arm, wielding a short blade, and wearing a Leaf Village headband. Although Kakashi was only 12, he was already a genuine Jounin-level ninja. The equipment suggested that he had recently been promoted to a Jounin-level ninja and had not yet acquired the Sharingan during the Ninja World War. Opening Kakashi's details, Charles first confirmed his ninja skills. Young Hitaki Kakashi, B-rank ninja. Skills: Chidori, gather lightning in hand and dash forward. If it successfully collides with an enemy, it will perform a high-speed impact, piercing through enemies in its path. Gliding, perform a sliding tackle attack. If it hits an enemy, it will lift the enemy into the air, and Kakashi will use the short sword to heavily slash the enemy down. White Chakra Saber Light Blade, focus a large amount of chakra on the short sword. After 3 consecutive sword slashes, Kakashi jumps into the air and delivers a finishing blow to the ground. Charles wasn't too concerned about Kakashi's skills, especially since this Kakashi didn't have the Sharingan. The power of Chidori was limited to a straight thrust, and Charles had a more mature version of Chidori in his arsenal. Charles was more interested in Kakashi's swordsmanship. Besides the increase in ninja technique skills, Charles was quite satisfied with Kakashi's overall strength. In his team, aside from Tsunade, Kakashi, who was promoted to a Jounin-level ninja, immediately became the second strongest. This was especially true since Kakashi, at this time, had no shortage of chakra. Moreover, this version of Kakashi, with a mission-first mindset, experienced numerous battles, making Charles very satisfied. Now, Charles wondered how Sasuke, who was around the same age as Kakashi, would react to seeing his former teacher. As for Naruto, he currently had no idea that their team leader would be none other than Hitaki Kakashi. As Charles received the ninja, a massive amount of chakra surged within his body, causing his chakra level to increase once again. The increase in chakra for a B-rank ninja was 5 times that of a C-rank, equivalent to using Chidori 15 times. Simultaneously, memories of Hitaki Kakashi's ninjutsu skills, including the swordsmanship, were also implanted in Charles's mind. Instructions on how to use the short blade and insights into Chidori were transferred as well. Feeling the increased strength within himself, Charles nodded in satisfaction. It seemed that tomorrow, he would ask Ginny to arrange for the forging of the short blade. He not only needed to make Gamekaki's short blade but also a weapon suitable for himself. After recruiting young Hitaki Kakashi, the next step for Charles was to unlock new battle slots and bring Kakashi into the real world. Ding! Would you like to spend 8,000 gold coins to unlock a battle slot? Without hesitation, Charles chose yes. The next moment, a new slot appeared, and Charles's gold coins decreased from 21,284 to 13,284. Observing the reduced coins, Charles tried opening another slot. Ding! Would you like to spend 10,000 gold coins to unlock a battle slot? Seeing the increased price to 10,000, Charles breathed a sigh of relief. This cost was still within his acceptable range, causing minimal impact. Given his current ability to obtain energy blocks and blood cores, he didn't need to worry about recharging gold coins in the short term, of course, only for the short term. Choosing no this time, Charles refrained from unlocking another battle slot. With 8 slots available, it was sufficient for now. He could consider unlocking more when he acquired new ninjas in the future. Exiting the system space, Charles didn't summon Kakashi immediately but decided to do so tomorrow night. Vampire Castle. The Irika squad had cleared all the vampires without letting a single one escape and returned to the castle's hall. Irika gave orders through his earpiece, "All werewolves, come in. You're responsible for cleaning up the battlefield." In order to annihilate all the vampires in the castle, leaving no one behind, Irika's team didn't immediately collect blood cores after each kill. Soon, all the werewolves outside the castle walked in. Seeing the bodies scattered on the ground, they felt the satisfaction of avenging their fallen comrades. The vampire's brain, the pineal gland has a red crystal about the size of a grain of rice called a blood core. Go and collect the blood cores from all the vampires in the castle. Yes, Lord Iruka. Receiving the order, the 10 werewolves immediately began their actions, collecting the blood cores of the vampires. Watching Selene still immersed in the memories, Iruka turned to Michael and asked, "Does it always take this long to obtain memories each time?" Michael, feeling a bit awkward, replied, "Lord Iruka, I'm not sure about such matters. After all, I've only recently become a half-vampire. But Victor and Marcus have both lived for thousands of years. It's likely that retrieving memories from them takes much longer than from ordinary people." Iruka nodded, accepting Michael's explanation. He then took out his phone, dialed the London Continent Hotel's corpse disposal unit, and said, "I am the adjudicator Iruka. There are over 100 bento boxes that need to be cleaned up here. I'll send you the address shortly." "Yes, understood, Lord Adjudicator." Ending the call, Iruka waited. He couldn't clean up the bodies himself and had to rely on the London Continent Hotel's services to handle the aftermath. Chapter 214, Return. The battle had come to an end, and as Rock Lee relaxed on the side, he suddenly seemed to think of something and turned to ask Iruka, "Teacher Iruka, who do you think our new companion will be?" Excitement filled Naruto upon hearing about a new teammate. He eagerly asked, "Is it Sakura-chan?" "If it's Sakura, that would be great. If she finds out I'm a ninja now, she'll definitely..." As Naruto spoke, he began fantasizing about Sakura's admiration and surprise upon seeing him. Even Sasuke, who usually maintained a cool demeanor, let his mind wander. He thought about his parents and clan members, but intentionally avoided thinking about the one who slaughtered his entire clan. Observing his students lost in their thoughts, Iruka squatted down and asked, "Lee, if it were up to you, who would you most want to join us this time?" After a moment's contemplation, Rock Lee replied, "It would be excellent if Master Guy could come, so he could train with me. Of course, having Tenten and Neji here every day would also be wonderful." Iruka sighed inwardly, realizing that he couldn't train with Lee and, in fact, wasn't even a match for him. He chose not to address Lee's later words and turned his attention to Sasuke. "Sasuke, who do you hope the new companion will be?" Sasuke's expression remained firm as he answered, "I hope it's a member of my clan. As long as it's not that guy, I'd be happy with any clan member joining us." Iruka looked at Sasuke with a trace of pity. His heart ached for this student who had experienced such tragedy at a young age, especially at the hands of his own brother. Next, Iruka turned to Naruto, curious about his expectations. "Naruto, who do you most want to join us?" Naruto, with a fiery look in his eyes, replied confidently, "I hope Charles-sama brings my mom and dad. Even though I've never seen them and don't know who they are, I believe in Charles-sama's abilities. He should be able to do it." Iruka, hearing Naruto's response, was briefly stunned. He had expected Naruto to mention Sakura or someone related to love, not his parents. Iruka reached out and gently patted Naruto's head, feeling a sense of empathy for the lonely child. Naruto's dreams and curiosity about his own origins tugged at Iruka's heartstrings. Iruka addressed the 3 students, "I hope that in the days to come, each of you will be able to reunite with your loved ones. I hope to see the companion we're expecting. However, for the one coming this time, let me make a bold speculation. Since Charles-sama said it's a companion, it might be someone we know. Considering that last time it was a jonin, maybe this time the ninja who comes will also be a jonin. As for who exactly it is, we'll find out after we return tomorrow." Hearing Iruka admit he doesn't know either, Naruto couldn't help but shout, "Iruka-sensei, we all said who we most hope will come, you should say too." Iruka, faced with Naruto's insistence, sighed but eventually agreed, "Fine, I'll share my hopes with you." After a moment of contemplation, Iruka began recalling who he would most want to join them. He thought about classmates from his time, his parents who died in the Nine Tails incident, and even the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, who had guided him through life. "Regardless of who comes this time, I will be happy. All of those are my expectations. Of course, what I hope for the most is a powerful companion who can assist Charles-sama." Hearing Iruka's official-sounding response, the 3 were dissatisfied and exchanged glances. At this moment, the 10 werewolves Iruka had assigned to clean the battlefield returned to the hall one by one and gathered in front of him. "Lord Iruka, these are the blood cores I've collected." Each werewolf handed over the blood cores they had collected to Iruka. Along with Marcus's, there were a total of 89 blood cores. Apparently, when Victor was in the werewolf base earlier, he took away most of the vampires. So, the number of vampires gathered in the castle was not very large. After accepting the blood cores, Irika nodded in satisfaction, wondering if these blood cores could bring a new companion. Just as Irika was uncertain, the cleanup team from the London Continental Hotel arrived with several cars. The leader of the cleaning team from the London Continental Hotel was named Castle. He approached Irika, respectfully bowed, and greeted, "Lord Irika." Irika took out his adjudicator coin, handed it to Castle, who checked it to ensure it was genuine, and then returned it to Irika. Castle then shouted to his subordinates, "Let's get to work." 10 or so cleaners, armed with tools, began packaging the corpses and cleaning the bloodstains and debris on the ground. At this moment, Selene finally woke up and, seeing the people in the room and the busy cleanup team, approached Irika. "Lord Irika, I have gained all of Marcus's memories." Seeing Selene quickly obtain the memories this time, Irika was somewhat surprised. "Victor and Marcus's blood not only gave me their memories but also enhanced my strength to some extent." Apparently, Selene also noticed Irika's doubts and explained. Irika nodded and then said, "Since the vampires on this side have been cleared, organize the belongings here. Leave the castle intact, maybe we can attract more vampires. I believe in London, apart from the vampires gathered in the castle, there must be vampires elsewhere." Selene nodded, "Understood, Irika-sama." Irika looked at everyone and continued, "Let's return to the Continental Hotel. We'll take advantage of the night and charter a plane straight back to New York. As for handling the other vampires, we'll follow Charles Sama's arrangements after returning to headquarters." "Yes." With Irika's orders, everyone left the vampire castle, leaving the cleanup team to handle the scene. Chapter 215, Reunion. The next day. As the first rays of sunlight illuminated the bed in Charles's room, he also woke up. Check-in. Ding. Check-in successful, obtained 1 ninja recruitment scroll. Ding. VIP level 3, obtained double rewards for ninja recruitment scroll, ninja recruitment scroll +1. Seeing the good news received upon waking up, Charles nodded in satisfaction. A beautiful day began with check-in. Opening the mission interface, he found that the missions submitted by Irika and others had already been completed, so he directly claimed the rewards. Ding! A-level mission completed, rewards, 5,000 prestige points, 500,000 copper coins, and 1 exquisite treasure chest. It seems that today's gains are quite good. Then, with confidence, Charles opened the system mall updated for the day, and 4 ninjas appeared. Young Kakashi Hataki Fragment, Daily Purchase Limit 0/4, 180 gold coins /1 piece. Itaki Uchiha Fragment, Daily Purchase Limit 0/4, 520 gold coins /1 piece. Jiraiya Fragment, Daily Purchase Limit 0/4, 180 gold coins /1 piece. Deodara Fragment, Daily Purchase Limit 0/4, 480 gold coins /1 piece. Looking at the refreshed ninjas, Charles was somewhat disappointed. Young Kakashi was already complete, so there was no need to buy more. As for Itaki Uchiha's fragments, 4 pieces for 2080 gold coins were not as cost-effective as a 10 consecutive draw, which costs only 1,680 and also provides some other ninja fragments. Therefore, it was not considered. As for Jiraiya and Deodara, after some thought, Charles decided to go all in and bought all 4 fragments. Jiraiya had always been a regret in Charles's eyes. Since he appeared, it was better to collect his fragments sooner and bring him over. As for Deodara from the Akatsuki organization, that goes without saying. If encountered, don't miss it. Try to gather his Akatsuki members sooner. After all, the ninja currently guaranteed to appear is Akatsuki's Itaki Uchiha, not other Akatsuki members. It's just a bit regrettable that the fragments for Haiden, who is about to be completed, did not appear. After spending 2,640 gold coins, Charles received 8 ninja fragments and his own gold coins decreased to 10,644. After completing all this, Charles exited the system space, then washed up quickly, put on clothes, and was about to go downstairs for breakfast when the room's doorbell rang. Opening the door, he saw Ginny standing there. Seeing the door open, Ginny spoke directly, "Irika and the others returned late last night, and they brought back a lot of people. Currently, Irika and the others are waiting for you in the meeting room." "Okay, I'll go see Irika and the others first. You go notify Tsunade, Shizuan and the others to come over as well. After saying that, Charles didn't go downstairs immediately. Instead, after Ginny left, he entered the system space with his consciousness and dragged Kakashi Hataki's ninja card directly to the battle column. Ding! Should young Kakashi Hataki be manifested within a 3-meter range of Charles Doyle? Yes. With Charles's confirmation, Kakashi Hataki's figure quickly appeared in the room. Looking at the white-haired, masked ninja, Charles smiled slightly and nodded in satisfaction. Follow me. Yes. Kakashi Hataki's voice was cold. Charles quickly led Kakashi Hataki to the outside of the meeting room's door and instructed him to wait for further orders before entering. After that, he pushed open the door and walked in. Entering the meeting room, Charles saw Irika, Sasuke, Naruto, and Lee. You all did very well in this mission. I will have Secretary Ginny record an additional A-level mission for you. Thank you, Lord Charles. At this moment, Irika took out a cloth bag from his ninja tools pouch and handed it to Charles. Lord Charles, this is the harvest from clearing the vampire castle, a total of 89 blood cores. And the ones we brought back, Selene, Michael and 15 werewolves, are currently resting in the basement of our original agency. Hearing that they were in the original agency, Charles asked in surprise, has it been repaired? Irika replied, Secretary Ginny took us there last night, and it was just finished being built. Then find someone to connect the two buildings and expand our space. Taking the blood cores from Irika, Charles didn't absorb them on the spot but threw them into his storage space. Looking at the Irika team in front of him, Charles thought for a moment and then spoke directly, this time we have 2 new companions, who should also be familiar faces for you all. Let's get acquainted. Come in. Swoosh. As Charles's words fell, a figure suddenly appeared in the conference room. A young version of Kakashi Hataki in wartime attire appeared in front of everyone. At this moment, Naruto and Lee had no idea who the ninja in front of them was, both wearing confused expressions. Sasuke, on the other hand, looked at the iconic white hair and mask, secretly speculating. Could this be Kakashi-sensei's son? Only Irika on the side opened his mouth and shouted, Kakashi Hataki. Is it you? Kakashi, I'm your classmate Irika Umino. At this point, Sasuke looked at the scene with disbelief, staring at Irika. Kakashi was also confused. He had just received a notification that the team had a new mission, changed into combat gear, and then he was directly pulled into this world. Looking at the 4 ninjas in front of him, all with Leaf Village headbands, he knew they were not enemies. I am Kakashi Hataki. Kakashi said in a cold voice. As for Irika Umino, sorry, Kakashi didn't spend much time in the ninja school, and he was not familiar with him. Moreover, he couldn't recognize the Chunin attire he was wearing. Hearing the confirmation from the young man in front of him, Sasuke was in shock, then murmured, Kakashi-sensei. As for Naruto, he looked bewildered. Apparently, he didn't know who Kakashi Hataki was. As for the slow-reacting Rock Lee, he also didn't recall who Kakashi Hataki was. At this moment, Charles spoke up, this is Kakashi Hataki, currently 12 years old and also a Jonin. Naruto exclaimed, a Jonin at 12 years old, my goodness. I've just become a Genin, and he's already a Jonin. On the side, Rock Lee also wore an expression of disbelief. Only Sasuke and Irika remained calm, indicating that Sasuke had heard of Kakashi-sensei's achievements in history, while Irika, having spent time at the academy with him, witnessed Kakashi Hataki's growth. Just as everyone was about to speak, the door of the meeting room opened again. Ginny walked in with Shizuan and Tsunade. Chapter 216, The Discovered Bruce Banner. At this point, Ginny stood next to Charles, while Shizuan and Tsunade approached Irika and the others. As soon as Tsunade arrived, she casually asked, Charles, is there a mission? Meanwhile, Kakashi Hataki, who had been calm, was internally shocked. As one of the legendary Sunin, he had encountered Tsunade several times during his youth. Unexpectedly, even Lady Tsunade came to this place. Charles had a smile on his face as he spoke, we're all Konoha village ninjas, and with the arrival of a new comrade, let's all get acquainted. Starting with Irika, everyone, please introduce yourselves. Following Charles's instructions, the 7 ninjas, starting with Irika, introduced themselves, allowing everyone to become familiar with each other. Once the introductions were completed, the attention of the others was all drawn to Tsunade. Clearly, not everyone might know who Kakashi Hatake was, but no Konoha village ninja would be unfamiliar with one of the legendary Sunin, Tsunade. Regarding the curious gazes, Tsunade was already used to it. After all, she had been the center of attention since birth. Charles clapped his hands to refocus everyone's attention, then spoke, "We've gained 2 new members for our team, which is a good thing. We'll have a gathering tonight, and I'll have the chef prepare some delicious food to welcome our new members. In the future, more comrades will join us." Hearing about the gathering, Naruto immediately shouted, "Awesome, Lord Charles." Charles smiled but continued, "Aside from that, Iruka's mission brought us some new things." Charles then introduced in front of everyone the vampires, werewolves, and their common ancestor, Alexander. "Tsunade, you and Shizune have a new research task, which is to investigate the secrets of Alexander's bloodline and how he achieved immortality. Although both werewolves and vampires, as well as their ancestor Alexander, are relatively weak, their bloodlines grant them longevity. Alexander, in particular, has lived for over 1,000 years. At the same time, Alexander's blood can cause the evolution of werewolves and vampires. Iruka, later, draw a sample of Alexander's blood for Selene. Let her gain the evolution of the bloodline, allowing her not to fear sunlight anymore. Ultraviolet rays will no longer be her weakness, and she can become a vampire who walks under the sun." Hearing Charles's instructions, Tsunade spoke, "Iruka, I need to conduct a physical examination on werewolves, vampires, and the half-wolf, half-vampire Michael. As for the bloodline evolution, we'll need to do it in my laboratory. I want to obtain first-hand data." Clearly, Tsunade, as a medical ninja, was very interested in this real existence that was right in front of her. In her perception, the lifespan of ninjas was too short, even her grandfather who suppressed the ninja world during his time had died young. If only her grandfather could live as long as this Alexander, the ninja world might not have seen major wars. Charles nodded, "Iruka, just follow Tsunade's instructions." Ginny, who was standing by, also showed considerable interest in werewolves and vampires, especially in matters related to immortality. Although everyone wasn't in a hurry at the moment, no one could ignore the significance of such things. "Ginny, after Tsunade completes her examinations, the remaining werewolves will be under your command. You'll be responsible for their usage and assignments. After the base is constructed, you can assign them to work with the High Table envoys to ensure the security of the new base." Hearing that all werewolves were under her command, Ginny revealed a sweet smile and said, "Understood. Oh, there's one more thing. You need to forge 2 knives, one that is 16 meters long and another that is 1 meter long. Use the best known materials for forging, ensuring sharpness and durability." After saying this, Charles took out the sketch he drew last night and handed it to Ginny. "Boss, are you sure you didn't make a mistake? Did you mean 1.6 meters instead of 16 meters? Charles affirmed, "No, it's 16 meters for one and 1 meter for the other." Ginny stored the sketch and said, "Okay, I'll have someone forge them." After giving all the instructions, Charles let the other ninjas under his command interact freely while he followed Iruka to the next room to receive the allegiance of the werewolves, Michael and Selene. On the other side, inside the Pentagon, Ross was correcting documents while smoking a cigar. A clerk standing nearby handed a document to Ross, saying, "You might be interested in this." Ross glanced at the document, and the clerk explained, "We suspect it's gamma poisoning. In Milwaukee, someone drank a bottle of Guarana fruit soda, and the effects were more intense than expected." Excitedly hearing this news, Ross stood up and said, "Where is the soda bottled?" "Porto Alegre Port, Brazil. Send someone to the bottling factory, find a Caucasian man. For now, don't make any moves. If he sees you, he might run away." Soon, a soldier named Brinsky was brought from the U.S. military base to assist Ross in a secret military operation. In the helicopter. Here are the target and location. This is an arrest operation, capture him alive. Use tranquilizer guns, only resort to firearms if necessary. The police will assist, but we can't make too much noise. Looking at the documents in his hand, Brinsky asked, "Will the target resist?" At this moment, General Ross, who was also on the helicopter, replied, "The target is a fugitive evading the US government. He stole military secrets and is suspected of killing 2 scientists, a military officer, an Idaho state trooper, and 2 Canadian hunters. So, don't wait for him to resist. Use the tranquilizer and bring him back. Meanwhile, as Charles and Irika left, Sasuke, who was nearby, either thought about Kakashi's current age or had the desire to spar with him. He approached Kakashi and said, "Kakashi, I want to have a match with you." Looking at the young Uchiha, Kakashi thought of his clumsy teammate, Obito, and didn't refuse, "Sure." Upon hearing about the spar, Tsunade, who was also present, showed interest. She jumped over to them and said, "I'll be your referee. You two can spar with confidence." Then she turned to the others, "Anyone wants to bet on who will win?" Chapter 217, Sparring. Hearing Tsunade's announcement, Shizuan quickly advised, "Lady Tsunade, please don't bet." Evidently, Shizuan knew Tsunade too well. The self-proclaimed fat sheep, Tsunade, rarely won any bets. Ignoring Shizuan's advice, Tsunade looked at the others and said, "They are both 12-year-old ninjas from prestigious clans. Anyone up for a bet? Opportunity knocks but once." At this moment, Rock Lee, who suddenly remembered who Kakashi was, widened his pupils. Excited, he shouted, "Lady Tsunade, I bet on Kakashi winning, $1 million US. Hearing the sum of $1 million, Tsunade's eyes sparkled with greed, and a smile appeared on her face. "All right, it's a deal. Shizuan, handle the money." Lee ran to Shizuan, pulled out a bank card, and said, "Can I use a card? I don't have that much cash on me." Seeing Lee's enthusiasm, Shizuan could only smile wryly and replied, "No need to trouble yourself, I'll keep track for you." Apparently, in Shizuan's mind, Tsunade was bound to lose. Even if Lee transferred the money now, he would have to wait for Tsunade to spit it out, principal and interest included. Seeing Tsunade and Rock Lee placing bets, Naruto also ran over, bombarding Lee with questions. After some inquiries, Naruto, not having much money, still managed to bet 100,000 on Kakashi. Seeing no one else betting, Tsunade's gaze shifted to Ginny. Ginny, looking at Tsunade's gaze, waved her hand and said, "I won't participate, I'll just watch." After saying that, Ginny found a chair and moved it to a convenient spot to watch the match. Tsunade then moved with Kakashi and Sasuke to the center of the meeting room. Both sides form the hand seals. The match begins. As Tsunade's words fell, Sasuke took the initiative to launch an attack. Several shurikens flew directly towards Kakashi. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Seeing the incoming shurikens, Kakashi didn't bother to dodge. Instead, he charged forward and used the short sword behind him to knock them aside. After deflecting the shurikens, Kakashi didn't evade but directly charged forward. He drew the short sword and appeared in front of Sasuke, raising his leg for a kick. Sharingan, activate. The Sharingan with two tomos appeared in Sasuke's eyes. Kakashi's every move was visible to him. He crossed his arms in an X shape to block Kakashi's attack. Seeing the two tomo Sharingan, Kakashi muttered, "The Uchiha clan's genius, Hehe." However, Kakashi's kick was not light. After catching it, Sasuke somersaulted backward. Simultaneously, while airborne, he quickly formed hand seals. Fire style, great fireball technique. As he landed, Sasuke unleashed a fire-style jutsu, sending scorching flames towards Kakashi. The intense heat instantly raised the temperature in the meeting room. Fortunately, the room was spacious enough to contain the fireball. Kakashi crashed into the incoming great fireball, and seeing this, Naruto shouted, "Sasuke, you're going to kill Kakashi." Rock Lee, on the other hand, excitedly pulled out his wallet, ready to collect his winnings. Rock motioned to Naruto, signaling him to shut up. As the referee, Tsunade, seemed to have magically produced a bag of potato chips from nowhere and began to enjoy them with relish. Without the support of chakra, the flames quickly dissipated. Only a charred stump remained, silently standing in the center. Seeing that the fire hadn't hit Kakashi, Sasuke immediately reversed his grip on the kunai, activating the Sharingan to scrutinize his surroundings, trying to locate Kakashi. Earth style, earthquake. Kakashi's disappeared figure suddenly reappeared on the side. He clapped his hands, and in the next second, the ground beneath Sasuke's feet shattered. Stones shot up, hitting Sasuke in mid-air. Seeing Sasuke ascending, Kakashi instantly leaped, appearing above him. Withdrawing the short sword, he executed a powerful slash. Chakra gathered on the short sword, making this strike merciless. Even if Sasuke didn't die, he would be severely injured. In a critical moment, Sasuke activated his substitution jutsu to evade. Swoosh! Kakashi's slash hit the substitution wooden log. The wooden log shattered, and Sasuke had used the opportunity to create distance between them. Watching from the sidelines, Ginny widened her eyes. Even with her enhanced vision, the movements of the two were challenging to follow. Bullet time, her time-slowing ability, could only be activated for a short duration due to high adrenaline consumption, limiting her observation time. Is this the power of ninjas? They're only 12 or 13 years old. Although Ginny had seen ninjas' power before, she couldn't help but be amazed. Unfortunately, she couldn't master such abilities. Thinking of this, a sense of powerlessness crept into Ginny's heart. How can I catch up with your pace, Lord Charles? As Sasuke created distance, he quickly formed hand seals. Watching Sasuke's hand seals, Kakashi, at first, tried to guess the type of jutsu he was going to use. However, as Sasuke continued the seals, Kakashi found them increasingly familiar. As lightning gathered in Sasuke's hands, Kakashi exclaimed, "Impossible!" It was the Chidori, a jutsu Kakashi himself had developed, the Thousand Birds. He hadn't fully perfected it yet, and this Uchiha had somehow learned it. By stimulating his cells with lightning, Sasuke maximized his speed at this moment. Running through, the ground beneath him created a deep trench plowed by the Chidori. Kakashi, seeing the rapid approach of Sasuke, suppressed his surprise and calculated the countermeasure. As the genius who invented the Chidori, Kakashi was well aware of how to counter it. Kakashi rushed forward at a speed even faster than Sasuke's, performing a powerful sliding tackle. He kicked Sasuke's right leg with tremendous force. As a result, Sasuke was sent flying, and in mid-air, he crashed into the ground, with the Chidori still in his hand. Boom! Sasuke's body hit the ground, creating a pit. The Chidori, held by Sasuke, pierced the ground, leaving a deep hole. At this moment, Kakashi instantly teleported beside Sasuke. Putting the short sword at Sasuke's neck, Kakashi said in chilling voice. Where did you learn the Chidori? Chapter 218, Fat Sheep, Bonus Chapter. At this point, Sasuke's face turned pale, cold sweat dripping from his forehead. It wasn't because of Kakashi's killing intent or the white short sword pressed against his neck, it was because Kakashi's sliding kick had just broken his right shin bone. Enduring the pain, Sasuke clenched his teeth, stubbornly refusing to cry out and lose face. Tsunade, who had been eating potato chips on the sidelines, appeared between the two. Alright, the winner of this sparring match is Kakashi Hatake. On the side, Shizuan covered her face. Lady Tsunade lost again. Seeing Kakashi still not retracting his knife, Tsunade's expression changed abruptly. She stomped her foot on the ground. Boom! The ground quaked, and the house miraculously didn't collapse. Feeling Tsunade's displeasure, Kakashi withdrew the short sword from Sasuke's neck but kept his gaze on Tsunade. He then explained, he learned my self-created jutsu. Hearing Kakashi's words, Tsunade landed a punch on Kakashi's head and pointed at the fallen Sasuke. This guy is your future disciple, and the Chidori is something you taught him. Disciple? Kakashi exclaimed incredulously. Waving her hand dismissively, Tsunade said to Shizuan, explain the details to Kakashi. Apparently, Tsunade didn't know the specifics either. She and Shizuan had casually discussed it in the lab. Shizuan hurried over when Tsunade called her, then began to explain their relationship with Uchiha Sasuke to Kakashi. Meanwhile, Tsunade helped Sasuke, who was lying on the ground. After checking his injuries, she said, fracture, but not a big deal. Tsunade covered Sasuke's fractured leg, and with a forceful motion, there was a cracking sound as she straightened his bones. After lying in the recovery room for a few hours, it should be fine. I have to say, this wax bath is quite convenient. It won't delay the evening gathering. With his bones back in place, Sasuke was sweating from the pain, but being a ninja, he didn't make a sound. Pointing to Lee, Tsunade called out, you there, Lee? Yes, you. Take this guy to the recovery room. Lee quickly ran over, lifted Sasuke onto his back, and rushed toward the recovery room. Naruto followed closely behind. On the other side, General Ross, with his team, surrounded Bruce Banner's residence. After a brief skirmish, they failed to capture him. Instead, Banner managed to escape, leaving his computer behind, providing Ross with some clues. Simultaneously, Brunski learned from General Ross about the giant creature that played with a wrecking ball and found out it was Bruce Banner himself. Because of the failed capture and the lost target, General Ross led the team back to the Pentagon in New York. In an arsenal housing tanks, missiles, and fighter jets, Ross and Brunski conversed. "What I'm about to tell you is highly sensitive, both for me and the military. You should be aware of the U.S. weapons development program. During World War II, they conducted experiments, enhancing soldiers with biotechnological capabilities." Brunski replied, "Creating super soldiers and thus giving birth to Captain America from that experiment." General Ross stopped in his tracks, looking at Blonsky. "Exactly. It's not that simple, but you're correct. That experiment only produced one person, so I ordered them to carry out bold experiments again. But the research department only wanted to create better weapons, while we aimed to build stronger soldiers." Ross continued, "Banner's experiment only reached the initial stage and was practically unusable. He thought he was researching anti-radiation methods, and I never told him the truth. But he was too sure of himself, conducting unauthorized human experiments. His body belongs to the US military." Listening to Ross's narration, Blonsky raised a question. "You said he wasn't developing weapons." "That's correct. But you are, aren't you? We are developing a serum with great potential. Why did he go on the run? He's a scientist, not a soldier." Now, Ross stood face to face with Blonsky, asking suddenly, "How old are you this year?" 45. Blonsky didn't understand why General Ross suddenly asked this but answered, 39. Ross chuckled, "Fighting ages you quickly, doesn't it?" "Exactly." Ross shrugged, saying, "Then don't go on missions anymore. With your record, you can become a colonel." But Blonsky didn't agree with Ross's proposal. "No, I'm a warrior, always will be." Hearing Blonsky's words, Ross pondered for a moment before saying, "I can make you stronger." Evening came quickly. Inside Charles's office, the atmosphere was lively. This welcome party wasn't just for the recruited ninjas. Even John Wick, Wesley, Cross, and other adjudicators were present. Newly joined members like Michael and Selene were also there, though they could only watch others enjoy the feast with envy as they couldn't eat. The exception was the werewolves, unaffected by the restrictions, who could eat normally. At the moment, Charles, the host, watched Lee and Naruto, who seemed unusually happy. He couldn't help but be curious. "Is something exciting happening?" Before Lee could answer, Naruto eagerly shared, "Uncle, I made a bet with Tsunade-sama. I won 100,000, and Lee won 1 million. "Betting?" Charles asked, puzzled. Naruto quickly explained the sparring match between Sasuke and Kakashi, vividly describing the entire scene. Listening to Naruto's account, Sasuke, who was silent all along, continued cutting and devouring his steak. He had thought that, with his 12-year-old Sharingan and enhanced body, even if he wasn't as good as his teacher Kakashi, the difference shouldn't be significant. Yet, within a short time, Kakashi managed to bring him to the ground without even using his ultimate move. This left Sasuke feeling extremely frustrated and unsatisfied. After hearing Naruto's narration, Charles glanced at Kakashi and Sasuke, who were both eating. Then, he looked at Tsunade. This fat sheep, Tsunade, losing wasn't surprising. If she were to win, Charles could imagine the troubles it would bring. Seeing Charles's gaze, Tsunade approached with a bottle of wine. "Come, let's drink." Observing Tsunade's imposing posture, Charles marveled silently. Chapter 219, Uchiha Shisui. The first rays of sunlight in the morning shone on Charles's face, and he felt a slight headache in his half-asleep state. Rubbing his throbbing head, Charles recalled the events of last night. He couldn't believe he lost in a game of rock-paper-scissors and had to drink with Tsunade. It was simply unbelievable. How could that big gambler win? After all, isn't she notorious for losing every gamble? Maybe my luck in gambling is worse than Tsunade's? Impossible, impossible. Charles shook his head. He absolutely refused to believe that. Perhaps it was because they were betting with drinks, not money, and that didn't trigger Tsunade's passive effect. Yes, that must be it. Having understood the cause and effect of the situation, Charles didn't dwell on it. At the same time, he planned to take Tsunade out today and test his luck. He wanted to see if things were really as he thought. Check-in. Ding. Check-in successful, earn 300 reputation points. Seeing his check-in reward, Charles didn't have any special feelings. He then entered the system space to check today's updates in the system store and see what new ninjas were available. Opening the ninja section of the system store, 4 ninjas appeared on the screen. Rock Lee Fragment, Daily Limit 0/4, 60 coins/1 piece. Kisame Hashiga Key Fragment, Daily Limit 0/4, 300 coins/1 piece. Itaki Uchiha Fragment, Daily Limit 0/4, 520 coins/1 piece. Uchiha Shisui Fragment, Daily Limit 0/4, 420 coins/1 piece. Looking at the refreshed ninjas, Charles felt a bit conflicted. There is no need to buy Itaki Uchiha since it's part of the limited edition recruitment. Purchasing fragments individually isn't cost-effective. As for Rock Lee and Kisame, they were definitely worth buying. One was so cheap that not buying it would be a loss, and the other needed to be collected in the system shop. So, there was no need to hesitate about them. However, these 4 fragments of Uchiha Shisui made Charles somewhat conflicted. At 420 coins each, the price wasn't cheap. But the Uchiha Shisui possessed, especially the most potent illusion, the Tsukuyomi with the Mangekyo Sharingan, was like a game-breaking bug. Moreover, Uchiha Shisui's various techniques were cool, and the power was enormous. There were also matching swordsmanship and instantaneous techniques. Thinking about his current coin balance and the blood cores Irika handed him yesterday, Charles bit the bullet and bought the fragments of all 3, spending a total of 3,120 coins. After buying the fragments, Charles exited the system space. Waking up, he freshened up a bit. Charles took out all the blood cores given to him by Irika from his storage space and poured them onto the table. Among the 89 blood cores, one of them was significantly larger, about 3 or 4 times the size of the others. Taking out the largest blood core, Charles examined it. This should be Marcus's blood core. I wonder how much it's worth. Recharge. As Charles confirmed the recharge, the blood core turned into a red stream of light, merging into his body. Ding! Recharge successful, received 500 coins. Ding! First recharge of 500 coins, received double first recharge bonus, obtained 1000 coins. Seeing that Marcus's blood core brought him a total of 1000 coins, Charles was quite satisfied. He is truly the ancestor of this vampire lineage, the value is indeed considerable. Then Charles placed his palm above the other blood cores, and the system immediately prompted him. Ding! Detected special items that can be used for recharge. Do you want to recharge? Without hesitation, Charles directly chose to recharge. Ding! Recharge successful, received 5,280 coins. This bag of blood cores brought Charles 6,280 coins, bringing his total coin count to 13,804. Ding! Congratulations to Charles Doyle for reaching VIP level 6, receiving the following rewards. 1. Free recruit VIP 6 privilege Ninja Hyuga Neji. 2. Receive a privilege package, copper coins 20,000, reputation 200, ninjutsu secret scroll x3, ninja recruitment scroll. Upon hearing that he had reached VIP level 6 and received a free recruitment opportunity, Charles was momentarily stunned. He immediately entered the system space to check. While Charles was checking the rewards for reaching VIP level 6 in the system space, at the Triskelion building, Agent Coulson, holding a file, hurriedly walked towards Director Nick Fury's office. Pushing open the door, Coulson quickly approached Nick Fury and placed a tablet on his desk. Director, this is the latest intelligence from Mexico. We may have found ninjas from another faction. Nick Fury, who was sipping his coffee, put down the coffee cup upon hearing Coulson's words and opened the tablet to play the video. In the video, Temari wielded her massive 7-star fan, knocking out 2 thugs who were approaching with malicious intent and scaring off another. Seeing this scene, Nick Fury frowned slightly, and Coulson quickly swiped to the next video. In the video, a group of Mexican gangsters, including the one who escaped earlier, was shown. Time goes back to 2 nights ago. Temari was teleported by Charles to the outskirts of Mexico City, feeling a bit lost in this unfamiliar world. She quickly received instructions from Charles to go to the Charles Agency at 71 Forest Hills Avenue, Queens, New York. However, Temari had no idea where she was. After blindly walking for a while, she finally saw 3 strangers on the outskirts. Temari immediately ran to them and asked, "Hello, can you tell me where this is?" However, in the nighttime outskirts of Mexico, where there would be no people casually strolling, the three gangsters looked at the golden-haired girl speaking English and immediately had bad thoughts. After exchanging glances, they revealed a meaningful smile and pounced towards Temari. But their behavior immediately angered Temari. Just with a light swing of her 7-star fan, not using much strength, she directly killed 2 of them on the spot. Seeing the results, even Temari herself was stunned for a moment, muttering, "Is this a staged accident? Why are the people in this world so weak?" It should be noted that in the Land of Wind, facing such thugs, at most, her previous strike would have caused injuries, but not necessarily death. Typically, it would result in a simple bone fracture. Little did Temari know the vast difference between ordinary people in these 2 worlds. In that moment of her confusion, the remaining thug rolled, crawled, and fled into the darkness. Seeing the fleeing person, Temari had no intention to chase. Instead, she squatted down to check the 2 she had just killed. The physical strength of people in this world is lower than I imagined. Realizing that she didn't become stronger after coming to this world and that it wasn't a staged accident, Temari did not linger. She headed towards the brightly lit urban area in the distance, with a large sickle-wielding Komatari following behind in the darkness. Chapter 220, Temari was discovered. Temari hadn't walked for long when several cars approached from a distance, blocking her path. Soon, more than 10 people got out of the cars, each armed with weapons, and they opened fire on Temari. Da, da, da. Facing the incoming bullets, Temari opened her 7-star fan. In an instant, a tornado generated by the fan swept back all the bullets. Moreover, it lifted the people and the cars in front of her into the air, causing them all to die as they fell. After clearing this wave of enemies, Temari continued to advance towards the city. After Nick Fury watched the second video and saw the forehead protector different from the Leaf Village emblem on the girl's neck, he immediately spoke, "What does this emblem mean again? If I remember correctly, the last emblem represented the hidden Leaf Village. Could there be a second hidden village? And her ability to create a tornado with that giant fan, is it an inherent ability, or does the fan possess that ability?" In response to the director's questions, Coulson voiced his speculation, "This girl is obviously a ninja similar to Charles. Although her attire is different, the same style of forehead protector and the extraordinary abilities not typical of ordinary people can't be faked. I speculate that she is also a ninja, but with a different emblem on her forehead protector. I suspect they are not part of the same organization or from the same place. Since there is the hidden Leaf Village, why couldn't there be other hidden villages? Besides, she did not directly appear at Charles's agency, unlike the previous ninja. Of course, this is just my speculation. The specific situation needs to be verified." Looking at the appearance of another ninja, rubbing his brow, Nick Fury said, "Find her, try to make contact. We need more channels. Approach with goodwill. Don't provoke her." "Understood, Director." Having said that, Coulson left Nick Fury's office to meet this new ninja. On the other side. At this moment, Charles's consciousness entered the system space. The night view of Konoha instantly lit up with dazzling fireworks. "Congratulations, Charles Doyle, on reaching VIP level 6. Then, a ninja image appeared in front of him, a C-rank ninja, Neji Hyuga. "Would you like to recruit C-rank ninja Neji Hyuga for free?" Without any hesitation, Charles chose to recruit. Ding! Successfully recruited C-rank ninja, Neji Hyuga. Ding! Successfully possessing more than 10 ninjas, achieving the Ninja Recruitment Achievement, reward, 1 additional battle slot. Seeing these consecutive surprises, a smile appeared on Charles's face. This saved him another 10,000 gold coins, and he no longer needed to worry about Neji Hyuga's battle slot. Opening the ninja details, Charles first confirmed the ninja skills. Neji Hyuga, C-rank ninja. Basic attack, Gentle Fist. Skills, 8 trigrams, palm rotation, air palm strike, Gentle Fist art, 8 trigrams 64 palms. 8 trigrams, palm rotation, by rapidly rotating oneself, release a large amount of chakra from the body's meridians, wrapping oneself in it. Enemies around will be attacked by chakra. Note, during the release of palm rotation, the user is in an invincible absolute defense state. Air palm strike, launch a rapid assault forward. If it hits an enemy, the enemy will be thrown into the air. Gentle Fist art 8 trigrams 64 palms, while standing in place, place the enemy within the 8 trigrams, attacking all 64 acupuncture points to seal the opponent's chakra release. It is an attack technique that causes damage to the opponent's meridians. Watching Neji's complete set of gentle fist techniques, Charles was quite satisfied. Now, in addition to Steel Fist, he had also gained Gentle Fist. This provided a significant supplement to his own abilities. More importantly, he acquired a Reconnaissance Ninja, and the Byakugan, which possessed abilities such as penetration and detection. Most importantly, the Byakugan could evolve into the Tenseigan, just like the Sharingan. This is an eye capable of shattering the moon. At the same time, Sasuke already has his teammate Naruto, and Rock Lee would now have his teammate, Neji. The Konoha 12 now had more and more members, Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, Neji Hyuga, Rock Lee, and all those recruited. Only Sakura Harano, Tenten, Ino Yamanaka, Hinata Hyuga, Kaiba Inyazuka, Shino Aberame, Koji Akimichi, and Ino Shikacho were left for Charles to gather. Moreover, Hinata's fragments were almost collected, and her appearance wasn't far off. With the recruitment of ninjas, a massive amount of chakra gathered in Charles Doyle's body, increasing his chakra capacity once again. The quantity of a standard C-rank ninja had caused Charles's already vast chakra to expand even further. Simultaneously, the information about Hyuga's gentle fist techniques and Neji's several skills were all transmitted to Charles's consciousness. Charles now could switch between the Sharingan and the Byakugan. For Charles, this result was very satisfying. In the end, he could use the Byakugan, Sharingan, Rinnegan, and Mangekyo Sharingan. When the time came, his eyes would be invincible. Opening the battle column, Charles didn't hesitate and directly placed Neji Hyuga's ninja card into the newly rewarded battle slot from the system. Ding! Do you want to manifest Neji Hyuga within a 3-meter range of Charles Doyle? Yes. With Charles's confirmation, Neji Hyuga's figure slowly appeared in the corridor of the room. At this moment, the manifested Neji Hyuga slowly opened his eyes, looking at Charles in front of him, then spoke, "Lord Charles, did you summon me to complete a mission?" At this moment, Neji had just completed the Chunin exam and experienced Orochimaru's and the Sand Ninja's attacks. The days in Konoha were just beginning to return to calm. Looking at Hyuga Neji in front of him, Charles smiled and said, "There's currently nothing else. Little Lee and the others are also here. Let me take you to see them." After saying that, Charles opened the door and led Hyuga Neji out. On the other side, Bruce Banner, after evading pursuit by the military, arrived at Culver University in Virginia. Looking at everything in the academy, Banner not only recalled the bits and pieces of his life here but also remembered his lover. While Banner reminisced about the past, suddenly, he saw his lover sitting on a bench near the college lawn. Chapter 221, Charles's Promise. Returning from the mission, Iruka took back his work from Shiznu and turned his attention to the approaching footsteps from the stairs. Seeing that it was Charles Doyle, Iruka smiled and greeted, "Good morning, Lord Charles." Hearing Iruka's greeting, Charles walked forward, responding with a smile, "Good morning, Iruka." As Charles descended the stairs, Neji Hyuga, dressed in white with his distinctive Byakugan, appeared behind him. Seeing this, Iruka thought he might have been mistaken. He rubbed his eyes to make sure he wasn't still groggy from the previous night. After confirming that he wasn't mistaken, Iruka exclaimed, "Neji." Waving his hand, Neji greeted, "Good morning, Teacher Iruka." Iruka's face was filled with surprise. At this moment, he remembered the answer given by Rock Lee in London when asked about the most anticipated teammate. Although they didn't see the person they were eagerly awaiting at yesterday's gathering, they welcomed Neji Hyuga early in the morning, which made Iruka very happy. It also made him more interested in the blood cores and other items that could bring energy to Lord Charles. Charles approached the front desk and said to Iruka, "Call everyone down for breakfast. I'll be waiting for you in the dining area." Without waiting for Iruka's response, Charles took Neji to the dining area and chose a table that could accommodate everyone. Meanwhile, Iruka picked up the phone on the front desk and informed everyone. Soon, everyone arrived at the dining area one by one. Naruto rushed over first, looking at Neji suddenly appearing beside Charles. Curious, he asked, "I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Who are you?" "Neji Hyuga." Hearing the introduction, Naruto thought for a while but couldn't recall who he was. He sat down on the other side of Charles, pondering. Shortly after, Rock Lee, like a gust of wind, ran over. He hugged Neji and excitedly exclaimed, "Oh my god, Neji, you really came. Ha ha ha, great! Lee hugged Neji excitedly, shaking him so much that Neji was seeing stars. At the same time, he noticed the increased strength in Lee. In his memory, at this time, Lee should be lying in the hospital, waiting for treatment, or he should have left the ninja ranks after being disabled. After Lee let go of Neji, Neji grabbed him and asked excitedly, "When did you come, and what about your body? I remember you were still in the hospital at this time. The doctors said your bones couldn't be restored." Lee explained his arrival and the situation of his body. As everyone arrived at the dining area, Tsunade was the last to come. Seeing Neji suddenly appear, she said with surprise, "So, it's the little Hyuga from the Hyuga clan." Neji looked at the last arrival and exclaimed, "Lady Tsunade." Without seeing Ginny and John, Charles, somewhat surprised, asked Irika, "Where are Ginny and the others?" Irika quickly replied, "Lord Charles, it wasn't even dawn when Secretary Ginny took them and 14 werewolves to the base to speed up construction. But she left one werewolf behind, stating that it's for Lady Tsunade's examination. After the check, he'll also be dispatched to the base to help with construction." "All right, I understand." Charles was very satisfied with Ginny's efficiency. Having glanced at everyone present, Irika, Rock Lee, Suzuki Uchiha, Shizuan, Naruto Uzumaki, Tsunade, Kakashi Hatake, and Neji Hyuga, the daily bowl of delicious ramen appeared before him. "Today, our team gained another member, Neji Hyuga. In the future, our team will grow larger. Whether it's Suzuki missing his clan or Naruto missing his family." Charles paused for a moment, looking at Kakashi and Tsunade. "When my power is enough, I will bring back everyone's family members, even those who have passed away, from the time and space of the ninja world to this world." As Charles finished speaking, Kakashi looked at him with disbelief, while Tsunade appeared thoughtful. "All right, enough of that. Let's start eating." By now, Irika, Rock Lee, Suzuki, and others who were already aware of the situation were secretly working hard to bring back their close ones. Tsunade, Kakashi, and the newly arrived Neji began contemplating their own thoughts. Tsunade thought of her deceased grandfather and uncle, Kakashi thought of his father, and Neji thought of his departed father. After finishing the bowls of ramen, Charles called Winston to register Kakashi and Neji and arranged for Suzuki to provide them with basic life knowledge. Tsunade took Shizuan to conduct physical examinations on the werewolves, vampires, and Michael, the half-wolf, half-vampire creature. After Tsunade finishes checking Selene, Selene will take some ninjas to eliminate other vampire branches. On the other side, arriving at Culver University in Virginia, Banner felt somewhat lost seeing that his ex-girlfriend had already moved on with a new boyfriend. However, considering his own situation, he didn't blame Betty. After all, he was now a dangerous monster. In the end, Banner transformed into a pizza delivery guy, bribing the building's security with a box of pizza to gain access to the university's laboratory. Unfortunately, upon checking the computer records, he discovered that all his research records had vanished. With nothing to gain, Banner returned to the temporary residence, only to run into Betty in a restaurant, who had come for a meal with her new boyfriend. In the end, Betty chose to abandon her new boyfriend and brought Banner back home. Time passed slowly, and Charles immersed himself in his newly acquired abilities, attempting to master the switching between Sharingan and Byakugan and their coordination. He also focused on combining his own ninja techniques. Although he had recruited only 11 ninjas, the number of acquired ninjutsu was substantial. If he could master them well, he would have to take over Kakashi's title and become the true copy ninja, Charles Doyle. Chapter 222, Abomination Strikes. 3 days flew by. In these 3 days, Charles obtained 50 delicious ramens through check-ins, 200 ninjutsu gems twice, double reward for VIP 4, and 200 samsara stones. During this time, Charles immersed himself in the training ground, proficiently mastering various ninjutsu and figuring out the appropriate techniques and strategies for different situations. After 3 days of intense practice, Charles believed he had become even more powerful than he was 3 days ago. As evening approached, Charles left the system space and entered the rest area of the office. He grabbed a bottle of whiskey, poured himself a glass with an ice cube, and added a bit of cola, leisurely sipping it. Meanwhile, Suzuki, Sakura, and others, along with Kakashi and Neji, headed to the mainland hotel to accept missions. At the same time, Tsunade walked out of the laboratory and into the rest area, preparing to have a drink to alleviate fatigue. These past few days, she had been researching vampires and werewolves, discovering that this was a bloodline power. Unlike the blood inheritance limits in the ninja world, there was no need for bloodline transmission, a simple bite could bestow the same powers and characteristics. This made her feel the unique power and charm of this world. Although werewolves and vampires were weak and she could easily crush them with a single finger, however, their long lifespans had their own unique advantages. Seeing Charles sitting on the sofa, Tsunade walked over. "You're secretly drinking alone without inviting me." Without hesitation, Tsunade picked up the whiskey and poured herself a glass. She added some ice cubes and leisurely took a sip. Charles looked at Tsunade and smiled, "I didn't want to disturb you. Didn't expect it to be so coincidental, you happened to come out. How about it, any progress?" Tsunade finished her whiskey in one go, took a deep breath, added some cola, and poured another glass. "Tomorrow, let Selene lead the ninjas on a mission. I won't be able to finish researching for a while. By then, capture a few vampires alive for me. I want to study this creature. Feeding on blood for survival, such a race is truly wicked. They also possess such a long lifespan and can spread and create their kind through biting, like a disaster waiting to happen. Fortunately, they are too weak and have the disadvantage of fearing ultraviolet rays. Otherwise, they would be an extremely dangerous race." Hearing Tsunade's words, Charles smiled, then let Kakashi lead the team, bring 3 genin, and carry out the extermination work. As the two were discussing, suddenly, explosions and gunfire echoed from outside. Such commotion even reached the ears of the two drinking inside, instantly silencing the scene. After a moment of silence, Tsunade suddenly spoke, "It seems that this world is not so peaceful." However, Charles recalled that this was the Queen's district, not Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan. How could this happen? After contemplating for a moment, listening to the increasing shouts, explosions, and car alarms outside, he spoke up. Charles said, "Let's go out and take a look." Tsunade shrugged and didn't refuse. She followed Charles and they walked out of the office. As they stepped out of the office gate onto the street, Charles witnessed a car speeding towards them, crashing behind them and exploding. Boom! The explosion sent flames soaring into the sky, and the heatwave brushed past Tsunade and Charles's bodies. At this moment, a creature about 3 meters tall, covered in spikes, appeared in front of everyone. Watching the monster wreak havoc, Charles muttered, "Why is Abomination here?" Abomination had been led to this area near 71st Avenue in the Queen's district by the military. Tsunade, with her arms crossed, suddenly spoke, "Is this the monster of this world?" At this time, a group of soldiers just fired an RPG at Abomination. Boom! The explosion engulfed Abomination's entire body, but the flames were absorbed into its body, causing no harm. Meanwhile, Ross, with his daughter and Bruce Banner in a helicopter, was preparing to return to the military base. A soldier with headphones approached Ross and said, "General, you better listen to this." Ross put on the headphones and heard a voice inside saying, "The Hulk is on the streets, repeat, the Hulk is on the streets." Ross looked at Bruce Banner sitting next to him in surprise and then spoke, "Impossible, calm down first. Where are you?" "Intersection of 71st Avenue and 70th Avenue in Forest Hills, Queens." Ross immediately instructed the helicopter pilot, "Turn around." Banner looked at the suddenly turning helicopter and asked, "Why are we going back?" Ignoring Banner, Ross spoke to the other side, "Give me the footage." "Yes, sir." Soon, the images from the street were transmitted to the fighter jet. Abomination, excited by the RPG bombardment, picked up a car and effortlessly threw it towards Charles. Seeing the incoming car, Charles jumped and delivered a powerful kick, sending the car back at Abomination. "There's actually a strong one." Abomination's gaze shifted from the military vehicle to Charles. "Ha ha ha, a strengthened human." Abomination laughed heartily and ran towards Charles. Seeing the approaching Abomination, Charles knew that this matter couldn't be settled without a fight. Meanwhile, Tsunade, watching Abomination destroy things, suddenly spoke, "Need my help?" "Not for now. I'll handle him first." Charles flashed and instantly appeared in front of Abomination. Seeing Charles suddenly appear, Abomination grinned, "Ha ha ha, little bug." With a height of 1.8 meters, Charles seemed like a child in front of Abomination. Charles called upon a large amount of chakra in his foot and struck mercilessly. Boom! Charles's foot hit Abomination's shoulder, and the immense force sent Abomination crashing into the ground. Watching this powerful display, Tsunade, standing at the entrance of the agency, touched her chin with one hand and commented, "When did he learn my ninjutsu?" At this moment, the soldiers, seeing Charles suddenly appear, were also stunned. Especially when they saw him knock down the apparent Hulk before them. Chapter 223, Battle. The live footage of the battle was transmitted to the helicopter. Bruce Banner, on the helicopter, immediately stood up and rushed forward to see the incoming footage. A few soldiers tried to stop him, but he still managed to catch a glimpse of the images. As Ross watched the footage, he glanced at Banner and speculated about what was happening. Banner looked at General Ross and questioned, "Your experiment?" Betty, Ross's daughter, also looked at her father in surprise, asking, "What have you done?" Ross looked at Banner and then at his daughter but remained silent. Instead, he picked up his earpiece and ordered the troops to retreat. "Order all forces to the Queen's district." Banner, watching the crazed monster in the video, spoke to General Ross, "Let me go, you have to let me go." Betty exclaimed, "What are you saying? Do you think you can control it?" Banner looked at his girlfriend and quickly explained, "Not control, but stop it." Ross then said, "And what if you can't?" Banner looked at General Ross, his expression serious, "This thing is something we created. All of us. Please." Listening to Banner's sincere tone, Ross pondered for a moment and said, "Land near it." "No, stay at high altitude. Open the rear hatch." Seeing Banner's determined expression, Ross nodded to the soldiers by his side. The rear hatch opened quickly, and Banner was about to jump out. Betty grabbed Banner's arm, trying to dissuade him. "Think it through, you don't know if you'll transform. Don't do this, it's too crazy." Watching his tearful girlfriend, Banner spoke, "Betty, I have to try. I'm sorry." After saying that, Banner suddenly kissed his girlfriend, and then he leaned back, jumping out. As Betty tried to reach out to her boyfriend, she could only watch Banner getting farther away. At this moment, the transmitted video played the scene where Charles appeared in front of Abomination and kicked it down. Hearing this, General Ross urgently shouted, "Banner, wait." However, Ross's voice was a step too late. Banner had already jumped out of the cabin, free-falling. Seeing this scene, Ross looked at his daughter lying by the cabin door and quickly shouted, "Pull her in." At this moment, a soldier grabbed Betty's arm, saying, "Come in, miss. Top of form." At this moment, Abomination, who was kicked into the ground by Charles, suddenly roared loudly, as if extremely excited. Roar. The intense roar created a massive wave of sound, making Charles's ears numb. "Why roar?" Charles lifted his right fist, gathering blue chakra energy on his fist, and fiercely punched towards the ground Abomination was standing. Boom! The ground, which was already a large pit due to Charles's use of monstrous strength, turned into a huge crater after his forceful punch, and the splashing debris sent nearby cars tumbling away. On the plane, the computer transmitted real-time footage, and Ross, seeing this scene, was astonished. This is a perfect weapon. Quick, find me information on this man." On the other hand, Banner, free-falling, landed with a thud beside Tsunade, creating a deep pit in the street. Seeing the man descending from the sky, Tsunade glanced over but didn't pay much attention. Suddenly, a massive fist emerged from the pit, punching through the cement on the ground. It transformed into the Hulk, shaking its head as it crawled out. Seeing this scene, Tsunade became interested, "Another one has come." The Hulk, who had just crawled out, immediately roared towards the sky. Roar! Tsunade swiftly appeared in front of the Hulk and kicked with all her might. Boom! Tsunade's kick showed no mercy. The leg, infused with monstrous strength, was even more powerful than Charles's, sending the unprepared Hulk flying. The Hulk, sent flying, collided with several cars along the way, finally coming to a stop. At this moment, the computer on the plane played the live footage, and General Ross, who saw this scene, was astonished. On the other end of the street, Charles, hearing Hulk's roar, turned his head and witnessed the scene of Tsunade kicking the green giant. Today, Banner had just injected the inhibitor, so Hulk's strength had diminished. When Charles turned his head to look, Abomination jumped out of the ground. Clearly, he had also heard the roar of the Hulk. "Hulk!" The transformed Blonsky, retaining his consciousness, spoke to Charles, "Human, you are strong. But I am stronger. As he spoke, Abomination threw a straight punch directly at Charles. Watching the oncoming fist, Charles's chakra instantly burst out. Charles slightly bent his legs, preparing for a powerful punch. The chakra surging around him turned into a wave, lifting all the scattered debris off the ground. On his right fist, there gathered a large amount of blue chakra energy, looking just as formidable as Abomination's fist. Abomination and Charles's fists collided. Boom! The impact of their fists created a violent sonic boom, shattering billboards and glass on both sides of the road. Some civilians who hadn't fled the battlefield yet were instantly thrown away, covering their ears and curling up on the ground. The sudden sonic boom caused their eardrums to be punctured. At this time, the ongoing battle outside also caught the attention of Irika, who was guarding the agency. He first reassured the staff inside the office, instructing everyone to enter the underground shelter. Then, he rushed out, observing the fallen civilians and the ongoing fights on both sides. Gritting his teeth, Irika, along with the assistance of some personnel, supported the civilians on the ground and began evacuating them towards a safe place. After the collision of their fists, both Abomination and Charles were sent flying. Charles landed, stepping on the ground and creating a deep trench in the cement. Abomination, on the other hand, rolled backward, crushing many cars along the way, sliding for dozens of meters before coming to a stop. Ha ha ha, that's powerful. Didn't expect this country to hide such strong individuals like you. Clearly, in the clash of their fists, both sides didn't suffer much damage. Chapter 224, Tsunade's Teaching. At this moment, not only Irika was evacuating the injured civilians, but even the police officers who had gotten up from the ground were carrying their companions and moving towards the outskirts. On the military jeep parked nearby, the two soldiers, due to the distance from the shockwave, didn't suffer significant injuries, just a momentary dizziness. One of the soldiers picked up the radio and shouted, "General, there are two superhumans suppressing two Hulks." As the military vehicle's camera was only facing one direction, Ross didn't witness the Hulk's transformation or Tsunade attacking the Hulk in the monitoring footage. Retreat, and try to record the combat scenes of both sides as much as possible. Watching Charles on the monitor, Ross seemed somewhat entranced. A physique like a human but possessing the strength to suppress the Abomination, this was the super soldier he desired. If he could use large numbers of soldiers like this. Lower the altitude, I want to see the situation on the battlefield. Ross instructed the pilot in the cockpit. Then, he shouted to the soldier beside him, "Contact the troops, I want to know everything about that man as soon as possible." At this moment, Betty, lying on the helicopter window, looked down below with a face full of disbelief. Due to the altitude, she couldn't clearly see what had happened, but she did witness Banner successfully transforming into the Hulk and getting attacked that sent him flying. On the one hand, she celebrated Banner's successful transformation into the Hulk, and on the other hand, she worried about whether this unknown strong individual would cause harm to Banner. On the other end of the street, Banner, kicked away by Tsunade, stood up. He tore off the tattered cloth on his body, roared loudly, and then strode towards Tsunade. Watching Hulk rapidly approaching, Tsunade rubbed her wrist and said, "Charles, let me teach you how to use chakra-enhanced strength properly." Though Tsunade's voice wasn't loud, it reached Charles's ears on the other side of the street clearly. As Hulk approached, Tsunade erupted with monstrous strength, delivering an uppercut with immense force and incredible speed, sending Hulk flying into the air. Tsunade then leaped, concentrating chakra in her feet, and delivered a powerful flying kick. Boom! The tremendous force struck Hulk's abdomen, instantly fracturing several ribs and driving him into a deep pit in the ground. Tsunade stood on Hulk's chest, her right hand gathering blue chakra, delivering a powerful punch to Hulk's face. Under Tsunade's full-force punch, Hulk's cheekbones caved in. Seeing this, Tsunade furrowed her brow slightly. This punch was expected to be enough to blow off the opponent's head, however, it only resulted in this outcome. Hulk twisted his head, spitting out a dislodged tooth. Taking advantage of Tsunade not continuing the attack, Hulk slammed a palm, knocking Tsunade off of him. Tsunade instantly dodged Hulk's strike but also distanced herself from him. Hulk jumped out of the pit he was in, glancing at Tsunade and then at Abomination at the end of the street. He was ready to leave Tsunade and go after Abomination. At the same time, his injuries visibly started healing. The sunken cheekbones returned to normal, and the broken ribs restored. Seeing Hulk rushing towards Charles, Tsunade fiercely struck the ground. Instantly, a rift of 30 meters in length and 5 meters in width appeared, trapping Hulk, who was about to leave, inside. The massive stones thrown out of the ground, under Tsunade's punch, all headed towards Hulk. Seeing that she successfully intercepted the monster in front of her, Tsunade immediately launched an attack. She couldn't let Charles withstand attacks from both sides. With Charles's strength, facing two monsters simultaneously might be challenging. At the same time, in the Triskelion, the headquarters of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury's office. Agent Hill pushed open the door to Fury's office and walked in. Nick Fury, there's an emergency. Hill held a tablet in her hand, displaying the footage of Abomination wreaking havoc on the street and Charles Doyle stepping forward. Nick Fury took the tablet, watched the video, and immediately asked, "Where is this?" Hill replied, "Forest Hills, 71st Avenue, Queens." Upon hearing this familiar location, Nick Fury immediately said, "The location of Charles's agency. What's going on?" Hill quickly explained, "It's unclear for now, but there are military personnel on site, and General Ross's helicopter is above. He's confirmed to be present. Get me General Ross immediately." At this moment, the helicopter had just descended to a lower altitude. A communication officer immediately spoke, "General, there's a S.H.I.E.L.D. signal coming in." Seeing this, Ross didn't say much. He immediately took the headset from the communication officer and put it on. "General Ross, there's an incident on 71st Avenue in Forest Hills, Queens." Before Nick Fury could finish his sentence, Ross immediately interrupted, saying, "This falls under military jurisdiction as an internal military secret of the United States. You have no authority to inquire. If there are issues, contact me through the Pentagon." After delivering his message, Ross didn't give Nick Fury any chance to speak and immediately terminated the communication. He then shouted to the soldier beside him, "Prompt the troops to assemble." "And, where's the information I requested? Why hasn't it come yet?" "General, it might take a bit more time." Ross glanced at the soldier who spoke and then shifted his gaze back to the surveillance video. On the other side, Nick Fury, hearing the busy tone on the phone, slammed the phone onto the desk and cursed. "Damn it!" Seeing Nick Fury getting angry, Hill observed silently without making any comments. After a moment of contemplation, Nick Fury spoke, "Given Ross's character, upon seeing the situation with Charles and the others, he'll likely act impulsively. We absolutely cannot let Ross disrupt our deployment with Charles and others, leading to conflicts between the two sides. Hill, immediately arrange Quinjets, we'll take a team of agents and head to the scene now. Hopefully, we're not too late." After saying this, Nick Fury stood up first and walked out, with Hill following suit, deploying and heading outside. Chapter 225, Charles's Innovation, Bonus Chapter. At this moment Abomination up from the ground. A humanized smile appeared on his face as he exclaimed, "Such a powerful existence, excellent. Who are you? Is this all you have?" Charles looked at Abomination, who was spouting nonsense at the side. He furrowed his brows slightly. This guy's regenerative ability was not weak. It seemed he had to aim for vital points to defeat him. "Byakugan, open!" In the next second, veins bulged on Charles's eyes, revealing a pair of pure white eyes. The colorful world turned black and white under the influence of his Byakugan. Through the Byakugan's perspective, Charles could see Abomination's body, bones, meridians, and internal organs. In his enormous heart, a brownish-yellow energy flowed through his entire body's meridians, supporting his powerful physique. Abomination noticed Charles's eye change but didn't understand its significance. Without further thought, he started walking and charged towards Charles again. While running, he picked up a car from the roadside and threw it at Charles. Observing the incoming car, Charles transformed his fist into a palm, and chakra surged from his hand as he used his palm like a sword to cut the car in half. The two halves fell on both sides of the street. Abomination had already reached him. Charles focused his senses, using the Byakugan to observe Abomination's various meridians. Abomination threw a punch. With a swift displacement, Charles easily dodged Abomination's fist. Simultaneously, chakra surged in his hands, forming chakra surgical blades. At an incredibly fast speed, Charles extended his arm with a gentle fist technique, landing a palm strike on Abomination's brachialis and biceps. In response, Abomination's right arm immediately lost sensation. Before he could react, he activated 8 trigrams, and Hulk was within the 8 trigrams. Gentle fist style, 8 trigrams 64 palms. Second palm, 4th palm, 6th palm, 8th palm, 16th palm, 32nd palm, 64th palm. In a flash, Charles executed the 8 trigrams 64 palms. Unlike typical uses focusing on acupoints, Charles utilized it primarily as a chakra surgical blade. During each strike, chakra turned into a sharp weapon, cutting all 64 muscle groups around Abomination. With all the muscle groups and some meridians severed, Abomination's body lost support. Under the 64th palm, he collapsed with a thunderous roar. Abomination's massive body fell, and the impact lifted dust from the ground. Having completed the 64 palms, Charles took a deep breath. Although he combined chakra surgical blades with the gentle fist style, it still imposed a significant burden. After all, such manipulation required an extraordinary level of chakra control. This technique was something Charles had experimented with in the training ground over the past few days. In this world, there is no chakra. Gentle fist style, which intercepts chakra, isn't very effective in controlling the situation. Therefore, this is an improvement method devised by Charles. The scene of Charles knocking down Abomination again was transmitted to General Ross on the helicopter by the on-site military personnel. The helicopter had already lowered its altitude and was hovering above the street building. Through the window, Ross could clearly see the scene below. Too perfect. Such an existence, it's simply perfect. What did he just use? Is it Chinese Kung Fu? At this moment, a soldier suddenly spoke, "General, should we intervene?" After some contemplation, Ross continued, "Keep watching." At this moment, Abomination, lying on the ground, tried to get up but found that his whole body couldn't move. He immediately roared, "What have you done to me, you bastard? Is that magic?" Obviously, Abomination didn't fully understand the changes in his body, but he quickly realized that his body was gradually regaining mobility. The severed meridians and muscle groups were rapidly recovering and repairing. At this moment, Charles approached Abomination, looking at the position of his heart. He was about to deliver a fierce blow, believing that his full force punch would definitely burst Abomination's heart. Even the Hulk could possibly die if his heart burst, not to mention Abomination, who was worse than Hulk. Charles raised his right fist to gather strength, and a large amount of chakra converged on his fist, forming a visible blue chakra layer. Just as Charles was about to throw the punch, the right arm, which had been cut first, had already recovered. Abomination immediately swung his arm to sweep towards Charles. Swoosh! Boom! With tremendous force, Charles was instantly sent flying, turning into a meteor that pierced through the adjacent building. Seeing Charles being blown away, Abomination sensed that the immediate crisis had been averted. The other muscles on his body quickly healed, and within 3 breaths, Abomination stood up again. Abomination looked at the direction where he had sent Charles flying and immediately rushed over. At this moment, Charles, struck by Abomination's blow, had landed on 72 Avenue, collapsing a building and burying himself underneath. 8 inner gates, gate of limit, open. Boom! Under the influence of the 8 inner gates, Charles's chakra instantly reached its peak, surpassing elite Jonin and reaching the rank of a Kage. At this moment, green chakra turned into substantial energy, forming a green tornado that soared into the sky. The huge stones pressing on Charles were directly pulverized by the gushing chakra. In the sky, inside the helicopter, General Ross, seeing Abomination chasing after Charles, immediately shouted, "Turn around, quickly, catch up." The helicopter instantly flew towards 72 Avenue. At this moment, Charles's veins bulged on his forehead, and his body turned into a reddish-brown color due to the raging chakra, resembling a well-cooked shrimp. Charles hadn't activated the 8 inner gates recently, and the consecutive increase in chakra surprised him. Under the enhancement of the 8 inner gates, he had unexpectedly reached such a high chakra level. Feeling an overwhelming urge to vent, Charles, looking at the approaching Abomination, immediately had a target. Charles made a sprinting motion. Boom!
Thanks for listening.